Yo, what it be, what it do? Okay, here, you guys, you might say, I'm gonna mute myself just for a moment, and, or rather, I'm just not gonna talk, and, you guys maybe just say test a few times, and I have it pulled up on my phone here, I'm just gonna see if our audio shows up on the stream, so go ahead. Here, keep going, I'm taking off my headset. Here, you're showing up a little quiet, that might be my fault. Because I'm the right volume. Let me, let's see, user volume here. Let me turn you up by 50, probably both you guys by 50%. And then I'm going to try again. Let's see. Okay, I'm taking my headset off. Charlie, say test a few more times. All right, that's a little better. I don't know. And maybe it's because. Oh, you know what? I bet it's because. Let me try turning you up to 200%. Otherwise, I think the problem is I might just need to use my. I might need to go. I might need to go be OBS and change the audio capture to my Mac because I think right now it's using my mic, and maybe that's the problem. Okay. All right. All right. Try one last time. Okay, that's still really quiet. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna just. I'm gonna disconnect. I have suck at this stuff. I'm gonna disconnect my mic real quick, and I'm just going to change the audio capture to my MacBook mic, and maybe that will solve the problem. Okay, let me mute. I'm just gonna unplug that. Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. All right, now, all right. One last time. All right, I'm gonna mute myself here on my end, and all right, one last time, you guys say test.
Let's see how it goes.
Okay. Oh, hold on. I think I think I did. I think I did it wrong. Sorry. Let me.
All good.
I think. Okay. Okay. I think this time it'll work. Oh, hold on. Why is it? Okay. Okay. Try one more time. Do it now.
Okay.
Testing audio. See how this goes.
Off of the live for now.
Smart.
Is my test working? Does it sound?
Sounds good on my end, but
Okay.
I'm not checking the screen.
Okay. I think maybe it's a little muffled, but otherwise I think it's fine. Okay. 5:59. Are you ready to go?
1 second. I'm gonna restart our TikTok live because it's having some slight difficulties, but once I restart it should be fine. But actually, I mean, it's rolling just fine. It's just we're like shadow banned from popping up on people's stuff, but it's not really that big of a deal.
Okay.
Happens.
Otherwise, You guys might periodically check your streams as well, just to make sure everything looks good. Otherwise, it should be fine. We good to go?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good to roll.
Okay. All right. I think that should be it. Okay. All right, here we go. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this kind of thing. All right. Hey. We're probably gonna get like 3 viewers. I'm not gonna be too professional about this. But hey, what's up, everyone? We met last month to make our Deltarune Chapter 5 predictions. I think we got like 30% of that right, but we're here today to talk about like what did we think, but also like what's our take on everything that happens in the chapter. And we have a lot to talk about today. I think the entire slideshow is like 60 slides, and if you ignore the title slides, like we have like 40 slides of information. So it's probably going to be a long stream unless we skip around some. Otherwise, Liam is not here with us today. Just scheduling didn't work out for him. Otherwise, I am Paul. And as we go through here, I made like kind of a legend here. I thought this would be a good way for anyone watching to follow this. If we get to a slide and there's pink text, that's my personal theories. If it's blue, it's Charlie's. And if it's orange...
Keep you waiting. I'm here too, by the way, just for the record, Charlie.
Oh yeah, our Dorona goat Charlie is here with us. And then if it's orange, it'll be Landyn. I do have Liam here, but he was not able to add anything, so just ignore that. Okay, otherwise, I guess let's just go ahead and get going. Before we get started, I just want to shout out our boy, Stephen Higby. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. This guy makes amazing video game renditions, usually on an ocarina, but he does other instruments too. That's what was playing in the background for the past 10 minutes or so. Go check him out, right, for the 3 people that are watching this. Me and Charlie love this guy.
Yeah, he's pretty rad, dude. Really good player.
Okay, I guess what we'll do first is we'll just go and say what we thought of the chapter, both our positives and negatives, because it was quite the controversial chapter, at least when it first launched. But I think all of us here really, really liked it, especially Charlie. So
I did enjoy it heavily, yes.
I guess let's just go ahead and get started. Okay. I really, really liked it. It's hard for me to know if this is my ultimate favorite chapter, because I'm a chapter 3 fan. I know that's kind of a hot take, I guess, but I really liked it. I'll have to replay the game to know if it's my favorite for sure. Asgore's like my favorite character in both this and Undertale. And I was really happy for the most part with how he was done. Basically his character wraps up in exactly the way I wanted it to, because I wanted the chapter to end with Asgore recognizing that things can't go back to the way they used to be and for him to accept change. I thought it was really cool that they demonstrated that with the reveal that, oh, the flowers are his wedding bouquet. And he's been keeping them all this time, kind of as a reminder for Toriel and his hope that they can go back. And he decides to take care of them for himself at the end. I thought that was awesome. I thought, I'm English teacher brained, of course. I thought that was great. The gameplay was incredible, right? Probably the most fun chapter, right? I'm not going to go into it too far here, but like I am of the opinion that chapter 4 isn't the most fun, despite having some incredible story moments. It has incredible music. I forgot to put my top 3 songs here. I think you guys did. But Garden of Hopes and Dreams, Weak Flowers, the festival, jam after jam. I love the festival. I think just after how Chapter 4 ended, I thought it was kind of the game's way of saying that whatever is going to happen, right, whatever that last prophecy said, that at least all these characters have each other, right? So a lot of people kind of complain that this was a more uplifting chapter. I really like this as a follow-up. Flowery, incredible, right? All of us
Absolutely.
love him. We'll go into more. We have plenty to say about Flowery later. Probably the best antagonist. Obviously, I love Tenna, but in terms of like adding to the narrative and like contrasting against, like I have it here, right? He's a great foil, kind of like an opposite to pretty much the entire cast. He was incredible. Probably is my second favorite, but again, I need to play the game. Shout out this incredible art from Tropisco on Twitter. And I won't spend too long on it, but just a couple things I didn't like. Everyone has said it already, but Asgore is the vague post king, and I just feel like at this point you got to give us a little crumb of information, man. It's really strange to have that part of the chapter where you're looking through his notes and you're like, what is he talking about? I feel like it's very frustrating to have that and then not follow up on it later. It's the only, and you guys can add on to this too, right? Or maybe you have it in your own slides. I say it is the only moment in this whole game so far that I think is genuinely kind of amateurish. Where I look at it, I'm like,
Yeah,
that was.
I would have to agree.
I look at it, I'm like, that was just so clearly the wrong decision. But it's not like a huge deal, right? Ultimately, I'm still pretty happy. It just makes it a little difficult to feel all the intended emotions. And otherwise, I would have liked maybe a little more Asgore. I'm not too upset because like Flowery ended up being the main character and he was great, but I would have liked a little more. And I think Mad Mew Mew is like the most fun boss fight. But I know she's kind of supposed to be a parallel to Chris, but it's kind of hard for me to get invested in a character if they're introduced and resolved within one fight. At least with most of the other secret bosses, like they have some build up and payoff beforehand. But still a really great boss fight, right? I don't really care too much that it wasn't super lore heavy. Otherwise, it was amazing, right? I could say more about it, but we have so much to talk about. Charlie, I know you have a lot to say, so why don't you roll with it?
I do have a lot to say, so let's get right into the show. So, for the just to start it off, this chapter had my favorite theme of any chapter, and that being like you can't. This is one of the many themes that I picked up in this chapter, but you can't force affection, right? Like I don't know, it's just something that's resonated with me in my life. Like I've tried to force a lot of things to work in the past, that just haven't. And I think that Flowery and Asgore's dynamic of like helping Asgore realize, oh, if this isn't going to happen, like sort of naturally, then it's not going to happen at all, right? And that was a cool conclusion. Like, oh, I need to stop working for this thing and instead start working to better me and be a better version of myself. Is kind of what I picked up on Asgore from, along with some really cool, side stuff, and of course the overall inclusion with the story of, Flowery almost asking the Fun Gang, oh, well, why do we not get a happy ending but you do? So that we'll get more into that later, but this chapter definitely had my favorite theme of all of them. So that was the first thing.
And also, sorry to interrupt you, Charlie. This goes for both of you. Let me know when you want me to go to the next slide. Okay. Just since I'm the one controlling the stream.
Yeah, I'm on the my thought positives.
Okay, for sure.
So cool. But yeah, and making the most of the flowers really made the most of their world, even though it was temporary. So, that kind of goes with the theme that Deltarune may be setting up, which is make the most of what you can control, even if the ending remains the same. So that there was just a lot in that really resonated with me in my life. So that's part of the reason that it's my favorite chapter. I also think it had some of, if not the best character interactions up to now, right? So, like, just Flowery's comedic kind of setups that he had where, you'd see him and Asgore doing different activities, and the Flowery Rousey beef was also really funny, along with the really meaningful moments you see between, Susie and the Flowers as she's trying to process her feelings for Noelle, and also just the festival in general had some really cool character interactions, both in the normal route and the weird route. But yeah, just the Flowers in general, the way they interact with the characters, the way they kind of push the characters to like further their arcs that we've been seeing throughout the other 4 chapters were really cool. I also have the festival right here as being one of my highlights because it was really good storytelling, to be completely honest. Like, just we've seen Susie and Noelle move into this will they, not will they, won't they, but this sort of like emotional tension where they don't really know what to do, and it's not completely resolved yet, but we see the beginning of that resolution. Like,
for sure,
they're coming to terms with their feelings. They're ready to face whatever challenges it may lead to, and Noelle is feeling more comfortable, not wanting to run away, but staying there in order to, be happy with Susie, right? So, but I'll jump through my next couple points really fast because I've been talking for a long time.
No, no worries. We got plenty of time.
Best gameplay, by far. Besides the platforming sections, fantastic. I liked all the boss fights. I thought the act dynamics were cool with, like, Yellow's fight had the Ace Attorney stuff going on, and with Green, you got the food, so Orange didn't get powered up. I just thought there was a lot of creativity there. The soundtrack, incredible as well. I really enjoyed Running Sky and Flower Man are probably... I really enjoyed those both pretty equally. But I also really... Garden of Hopes and Dreams was nostalgic, obviously, so that was pretty neat. And also, underrated banger, I loved Stop Criminals. I thought that was really cool. It's kind of like a slowed down version of Who Might You Be with the country-esque vibe of Yellow. So that was pretty neat. On the creative decisions topic, Toby made a bunch of them this chapter, and I'm really glad he did. Like, we haven't seen anime opening, or obviously, we haven't seen this anime opening thing ever done before. We saw Tina's opening, which kind of segued into it, but that was really neat. I think it was a perfect intro to Flowery's persona. The 2D platforming was a bold decision, but one that needed to be made. Having lyrics for the songs was something we saw a little bit of in Chapter 3, but we've never heard, like, actual lyrics, so Mew Mew Magic broke that barrier, and I thought that was great, and it allowed for a lot of community-wide creativity, and Flowery's voice lines, obviously, they weren't for everybody, but they were for me, so, Jerona. Susie living in Hometown, great reveal. I will say that is the main lore-relevant thing I got from this chapter. I thought that was a good way to end it, because it was such a positive chapter that I think ending it on the type of cliffhanger we've had for the last 4 wouldn't have fit as well. So having it kind of be like this happy but still sad feeling was neat. And obviously it's my favorite chapter up to this point. So yeah. Oh, there's my negative slide. So we can move on to my negatives.
For sure.
I don't have a lot of negatives, which is why I stood on the positives for so long.
No worries.
But I feel like for only having 2 chapters left, we haven't gotten enough information up to this point for me to confidently say that all of these things that the community is, like, wanting to know are going to get addressed. Because right now we have Friend, Eram, Hometown Butcher, Knight's Identity, Gaster Stuff, Forgotten Man, Rudy. There's which some of those could go together, obviously. But there's a lot of things, the Shadow Crystals, like, there's a lot of things that haven't been addressed that in 2 chapters I'm a little worried are going to feel rushed, which is why I was a little upset we didn't, and Des. We didn't have enough confirmation on those things for me to be happy with that. And like you're saying, Paul, only first immature move we've seen from this game. And, other than that, Asgore's information was repetitive, and I don't think there was nearly enough rules or Birdly in this chapter, personally. I really like rules. Yeah. So why was he not in this chapter? But
and I would say, like, probably none of us 3 played this game exclusively for the lore, right? It just, I agree with you. There's just a couple moments where, like, I feel like this is the right place to give us a little more.
Right. And, I mean, even Toby knew that because he gave us the pink edition after. So, yeah. Anyways, That concludes my thoughts.
Cool. And then let's go to Landyn. Brand new to the stream squad. You've only done 1 stream. But Landyn, go ahead, man.
Alrighty. Thanks for having me. All right. 1 moment. I'm just now finishing up my food. All right. So I typed out all my thoughts, like, verbatim, but I'm just going to kind of, like, gloss over most of this.
No worries.
Very much agreeing with what y'all have said so far. Favorite gameplay, like, objectively, I think it's probably the best one we've had so far. I'm a little partial to Chapter 3 because I'm a big fan of the WarioWare like kind of style it had.
Same, true.
It's very fun, but I was a big fan of the platforming. It's very fun to get good at. Agreeing with Charlie, Running Sky is like my top 1 song right now in the entire game. Noelle and Susie had really good development in the festival, like agreeing with y'all saying again. Flowery, amazing by the way. It was somewhat expected because we knew it was going to be Chapter 5. We knew the 7 Flowers were going to be a part of it in the Flower King. But I don't know, it was just interesting to see Flowery in general. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't expect them.
It definitely was a nice twist.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, I didn't expect them to be the main characters, so it was cool.
Yeah, sure. I never expected them to be main. I thought it was going to be like little side bosses, like similar to the other flowers. Yeah. I did not realize he was going to be the main, but it worked out pretty well. And then also, going off what y'all said, he was a really good antagonist and what y'all said, foil, to every single idea that the Fun Gang has. Because they want the exact same thing. It's just different circumstances.
For sure.
Other 6 flowers, all pretty fun for the most part. Dialogue Biz in the Cafe, loved it. Nice little side gags. Pink has slowly won me over to be my favorite Suka boss.
Really?
That's a little controversial, but she looked like very first time I fought her, I was like, okay, yeah, this is fun. And the more I kept doing it, it's just like, damn, yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, definitely a fun fight for sure.
Oh, for sure. Gameplay wise, it's like the most fun.
Yeah, and I am willing to defend her on like the relevance side because I think it might be because the way I thought of it was a similar fight that we've seen with Spant and Neo is like the bad side of like someone being controlled. But then this is like the exact opposite of that. So Chris, I kind of want them to realize that, you know, we want what's best for them, and hopefully this fight is helping them like realize that.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in like the little like the dating sim QTEs.
So sorry, excuse me. Yeah, that's sure. I'm drinking Dr. Pepper. I agree. There's some cool parallels.
Yeah. The fight, like the final fight in the chapter with Flowery going to Omega. Oh my god, dude. I was so hyped at like 11 p.m. that night. It was so good.
And for sure. And I've seen this art you included, which is awesome. I've seen so much fan art of that particular moment. It's a great finale for sure.
Actually, very funny story. I found this specific art on Wallpaper Engine, but I had to change it because I realized, oh wait, my partner has not played Chapter 5 yet. They're gonna see this and be like, what the hell is this? So I had to change it last second, but we're chilling.
For sure.
It's like the ultimate Girona of a spoiler.
Exactly. Agreeing with what y'all were saying, Asgore was pretty good. I liked him. No real complaints on his side. Rousey got a lot more development than I was expecting, but just because I feel like we got a lot of Rousey last chapter. But I think it's nice to get a little bit more because one of my favorite scenes in the entire chapter was between Rousey and Chris, where Rousey was literally going, I know that you're making the fountains, but I'm trusting the process.
Yeah.
Like, that's so interesting to me.
Yeah, and we have a whole section for Rousey later, so we're going to get deep into that, too.
Yeah, that's why I'm not saying a whole lot yet.
Yeah, gotta keep the goat.
Same thing for Chris. Yeah, same thing for Chris. Like, I have a lot I need to say on Chris, but I can wait on that. All right, and if we can move on to the negatives, but not really.
All right, we're here.
I have no real complaints with this chapter whatsoever, like, at all. But I will defend. First off, I'm going to go off the Asgore hype and underselling. One, we knew that he was going to be a part of it, but we never knew specifically what his role was. Because, like, I know a lot of people were complaining. It's like, oh, we didn't get an Asgore fight. Boo, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, which I didn't have a problem with.
Yeah. I thought that actually... I was pleased with that because I didn't want him to be a bad... You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I was hoping he wouldn't be involved with the Roaring Squad.
Plus, like, looking back on it, I don't really see a world in which it's Asgore beating up his own kid. I'm be so real.
Yeah, before the chapter came out, I was like, what would have to happen for him to fight his own child? And I'm kind of glad the answer was just that he wouldn't.
Yeah, I think the best outcome we got out of that was when he pushed Chris and Susie out of the Dark World.
I agree.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Let me just look at this real quick again, because I wrote down a lot on here.
No worries. And again, we're not in a huge rush. Take as long as you need.
I will say one of the few complaints I did have was, even though he was in there a lot, I do think he could have been a little more closer to the action. Because every single time, like, he was getting closer to the action, he either sent us away or got carted off like a damsel in distress.
A little bit, yeah.
But, yeah.
Because, I mean, and obviously they're either saving it for later or literally just saving him the trauma of seeing what looks like his son again. But I did want to see, like, a Rousey-Asgore interaction. I really thought that was going to happen.
A little bit. We kind of... I guess we kind of get one at the very end. Which
talk
actually,
to him at the fountain, yeah.
Which I didn't include. We can talk if we want. We can talk about it in the Asgore section. I don't know, but yeah, and we got that one moment where Rousey hides in the bushes right before they get knocked out of the light world. Otherwise, not a whole lot between the two of them.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I do remember that scene at the first fountain pretty well, but at the same time, like, it was so shrouded in darkness. He was like, oh, it kind of looks like that person.
Yeah.
But then also he has his reasoning for that. We can get into that later. That's not important.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much all I have to say on Asgore. But for the lack of lore, I am big on this because, I mean, us three, like you said earlier, we're not playing it for the lore, but we know most of what's going on.
Yeah.
And, like, I can imagine, like, oh, we just have information that we knew already. But, and objection, because the yellow Ace Attorney section we had, I do not agree with that at all, because I have a buddy who was playing it, not really keeping up with the lore, and I know, because I wrote it down here, my own partner has realized December's importance without any input from me, and she does not watch YouTube, like, at all. She knows nothing about this game outside of what she's playing.
Hold it!
So these people can... Exactly.
Because that's been a big discourse on Deltarune Twitter, is like how many casual players know that she exists. So that's a cool point that you bring up.
Yeah, because it literally is just like a thing of paying attention. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And especially here, because let's say Chapter 4, that's where we learned that Asgore was plotting something back at the Holiday House. Casual player might not see that. They may immediately just go down to the basement on accident and not play it back.
Which is what I did.
So this is how they're exactly.
Yeah.
This is how they're introduced to the fact that, you know, Asgore had something to do with this mysterious disappearance. Who is it? We're not sure, but a lot of them can pick up that December gets mentioned a lot, but she's not here anymore.
Yeah. And
it's very easy to put together.
Yeah. And we technically do get some new information, which we'll talk about later.
This is true, yeah. And then I heard very specifically on, like, how much time we have and how much there is left to clear up. I do not agree with that either, because on average, a chapter, especially with how they've been lately, with 4 and 5 specifically, they can take like 4 to 5 hours by themselves to complete on a first run.
Yeah, Chapter 5 took me 8 hours to complete. Now, that being said, that's partially because I spent a lot of time exploring because I didn't want to look up a guide for the secret boss.
Agreed.
But, like,
yeah.
Even on a replay, it's going to take at least 5 or 6 hours.
Well, I quite literally had a guide, shout out Paul, for everything, and it still took me, what was it, like 7?
Yeah, about. We'd split it over 2 days.
Yeah, and I did check this because... I played it again on my Switch because I wanted to have it for vacation. And it did take me like flat 5 hours skipping dialogue just to get to the end.
Yeah. So I agree. It's like, it's the next 2 chapters could be like 7 or 8 hours each, right? I'm not too concerned. And we'll talk more about this later. It's like, I don't think every single question we have is going to be answered anyway. I think it's kind of a guarantee that there's going to be some things that are left up to interpretation. So it's not, I think it's a mistake going into these next 2 chapters thinking, okay, there's 10 elephants that need to all be addressed. And I just don't think that's how it's going to go down.
Yeah, but even if like we do get that outcome, I think it'll work because, as I have as the very last line here, a pacifist run of Undertale, which we know Toby was testing if he could make a game story work, that takes about 10 hours. Like,
True.
on average, from what I have experienced.
I feel like that's a bit of a different thing, though.
That's fair, but what I'm trying to get my point across is that it's an entire story of a game in 10 hours, and we just have some like little details that we need to pick up on for Deltarune.
For sure.
That we'll have that amount of time.
For sure. So like I have trust for sure. And again, I think there's the most important stuff will be addressed and probably a satisfying way, I bet.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Also, shout out this cool ass art on Twitter that I found.
Okay, I guess are we ready to move on to? I guess now we're in official lore analysis territory. Are we ready to go?
Let's rock and roll, dude.
Okay, I guess we'll start with Image Friend because I feel like we kind of ironically have maybe the least to say because I feel like the information we got with them in the update, right? I feel like most fans are on the same page, but otherwise, let's go and get started. So yeah, if you act on Friend, right, it's the first time they do damage to you, which is notable, and you have to do this to get the secret dialogue with Mew Mew in the shop, right? Because she notices the cat bite on you, and basically we know that apparently Mew Mew knew someone who once owned a whole pack of cats. Wait, hold on, real quick. I'm just. Do I have a slide after this? I do. All right. And which kind of gives me, I think most of everyone, excuse me, is on the same page that Image Friend or friends are. It's some sort of hunter who can smell protein, right? Because Chris has the egg on them, and you also have to have the egg to do this, which eggs have protein. And lastly, she says some people would do anything to avoid them, such as going into the hiding or changing their appearance. Charlie has a little bit here as well.
It implies that Spampton could have possibly been a victim because we see that Tina, who is Spampton's like, depends how you interpret it, but like pretty much his lover.
Yeah.
Spampton was like unrecognizable to Tina, you know. But I'm trying to think of how to phrase this.
Right.
And we see that the Big Shot bow tie gives you defense against cats, which hasn't made any sense up till now. But it's very likely that Spampton had changed his appearance in order to try to escape Friend, which is also part of the reason we probably see Friend for the first time in the basement, you know?
For sure.
Also, sorry, something to note, Pink the body, not Pink the soul, is addressing Friend here.
Yeah, because it jumps back and it's like she's coming out of like a trance or something.
Mm-hmm. And going slightly off what you just said, Charlie, everything you say I think is right, but do keep in mind that there was a dialogue with Swatch in Chapter 2 where it was talking about Spampton disguising himself as like Swatch to try and get into the castle. And they have very similar designs in that kind of shape and way.
Fair point.
I feel like that is good to keep in mind, but I do agree with everything you said.
And
that's actually a good point as well.
Yeah, and so I feel like most people are on the same page right here. Now, Deltarune, always a very hard game to predict. We could be very wrong. But it seems to be that there's not just one friend, but many of them. And that kind of goes, you guys can see I included a photo here. It kind of goes in line with what we see in Chapter 3. It's like looking back on that, it's like, oh, that makes sense. There's like many of them probably. And the dialogue kind of suggests that Friend is not like an intelligent character with their own motivations, but probably just like a minion, right? Probably of Gaster. I still have no idea how Gaster will kind of manifest in this story, but I guess we'll talk about that later. I guess. So, like, are we, before we go into, like, what we don't know, I guess, are we all pretty much on the same page? Like, that seems to be what the game is telling us here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yes, like, I guess what we don't know is, like, who who is Image Friend? Why are they here? What's Chris's history with them? Because it seems it's one thing I didn't really put on here is it seems that Friend is capable of manipulating the space around them, right? When you first see them in chapter 2, right, it's in the Queen's basement, right? And if you try, like, you have to go to the end of the hallway and then back to see them. And the entrance to the hallway gets cut off, right? And then when you see them again in chapter 4, if you leave the room that you normally have to be in to see Friend and you go too far, the path to get back to them disappears. Which I talked with Charlie about this before it came out. That's kind of terrifying, right? That we seem to be fighting some sort of like omniscient being almost who can manipulate the space around them. They can like morph it. So I think we're probably going to get a Friend debut in chapter 6, and like I think it's probably going to be super scary, right? I can imagine it's gonna be like the Far From Home Mysterio scene where they're gonna rearrange things and put us in some sort of like maze. So
I think we won't know until that's happened a couple times. Like I think we're gonna get some kind of task from someone in the Dark World, whatever character it may be, to go back and do something, but we keep getting
or we get like split up, or maybe
right. It's gonna frame it as we're getting turned around, but in all actuality, the room is changing. Sorry, what?
No, it's okay. So I mean, I'm sure everyone seems to be on the same page that whatever Chris went to art therapy for, right, has something to do with Image Friend, right? Probably has to do with the disappearance of Des. But I think whenever we see them, it is going to be kind of a terrifying debut, right? And I feel like they're going to be insanely strong. So that's kind of, I think, that's my last slide on Friend. Landyn, do you want to add anything?
Sorry.
The only thing I can think of is, with everything we've seen about Friend, this seems like something either under Gasper's control, like we were saying, or demonic.
Yeah.
And I do remember there was a specific section where it was, I can't remember if her name was Caddy, but it was the emo cat.
Yeah.
Where she was talking to Chris about apologizing about back when they tried to summon a demon, and she left Chris alone.
Yeah, which I still can't tell if that's a gag or if it is going to have story significance, or if it's both.
Tricky Tony. Tricky Tony.
Yeah, Tricky Tony. But so, and maybe again, we're going to talk more about Chris and what their motivations, but maybe it's possible they're doing what they're doing. Maybe if Chris summoned Friend and it led to maybe the disappearance of Des or something horrible, maybe the reason they're doing what they're doing is that's why they feel guilt, is maybe Chris feels responsible for Friend causing like the catalyst of the story. So there's really not much more to say, I guess, right? But otherwise, other than it's okay. Other than that, this thing's gonna be terrifying, and I feel like we are probably gonna see it next chapter, and it's gonna be crazy.
On the topic of us seeing it next chapter, I also have down here that this is the first time we've had a physical interaction with Friend.
Yeah.
So, like, we've seen his previous appearances. They've all been off-screen or on a screen, like with ERAM. And I believe that him now interacting with us implies that because they began hunting us, we'll probably interact for the next chapter. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree. And we don't have any slides over ERAM here. We haven't seen Bro since 2 chapters ago. I don't know. We can talk more about him later, I guess. But that's Friend. So, in probably going to be super scary next chapter. I guess we're ready to move on. I only have 1 slide over the hometown butcher here.
Yeah, there's not much to say about that.
Rocky.
So Onion San has freaking died. And this is another thing where it is hard for me to tell if this is a gag or if it is going to serve story significance. I seem to kind of lean towards the latter, since the normal NPC is a goner in Undertale. Excuse me. But yeah, so normal NPC serves octopus balls. And normal NPC was at the beach in chapter 4, where Onion-san did not show up, right? I think Susie even comments on it that, it's when we go there at night. Susie comments that she doesn't think Onion-san's gonna show up, and all normal NPC just repeats "wait, don't," which everyone seems to be that's like the last words of Onion-san, and notably, right? So this is kind of old news. This is what most people agree on, but I think maybe where we can do some theorizing here is Snowdrake and Monster Kid also do not appear at the festival, and they are the only classmates of Chris and Susie to not show up. Everyone else is there. Temmie is there. Birdley's there. Of course, Noelle's there. Caddy's there. Jockington's there. But it's only those two, right? And I don't think that's a mistake. Yes. And Snowdrake and Monster Kid, we did see them at the shelter, right? That they didn't disappear there, right? They were at church in chapter 4. But right. I kind of do dig the theory that this thing is also some sort of follower or minion of Gaster, and he's going around doing crazy stuff and disappearing people.
We also know that Monster Kid does have a Goner counterpart.
Yes, you're right.
As does Donut Guy, who's eating the octopus ball.
There's other
hometown. Yeah, and so we know that. I don't know what that means, but I know it's something. Furthermore, the lady on the hot dog, I believe she's a dolphin, said fun value. I don't know. There's something going on with this strange crew.
Yeah.
In hometown.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, finish what you're saying.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm almost thinking that Hometown Butcher may be collecting people to make into Goners, but that's a stretch, and I don't have too much evidence for it. So, do that as you please.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of terrified of this thing, and there's not much else to go off of other than that. I didn't mention. They also mentioned Undertale's currency G by accident. So it's like, are we getting multiversal in here? I'm not sure. We're gonna talk about this when we get to Sans, but the whole timeline, in terms of its relation to Undertale, is really blurry. But Landyn, you got anything to say about normal NPC before we move on?
Not specific on normal NPC. I'll wait till later. For
sure. All right, Sans. I like the slide, by the way. This is my favorite slide of the presentation. Sans is maybe the thing I'm excited to talk about most. So, hold on, let me go through my slide here. So, this is our first mandatory interaction with Sans. I guess besides the one in Chapter 4, this is the first time where, you have to go up and talk to him to progress the story. And we all know he gives you a punch card, and he says, draw your friends on here so I'll remember ya. When I saw this for the first time, my jaw dropped. I was like, no way, you just dropped that so casually. And I was with Charlie when he got to this as well, and he reacted the same way.
I did indeed, yes.
And we'll get to the drawing here in a second. Something interesting, though, is one, he says his brother couldn't show up this year, which makes me think... but before I get to that, sorry, I'm all over the place. The whole game, he has never said Papyrus. He has only said his brother. And I don't know if that's Tricky Tony messing with us, or if there's going to be a reveal that this isn't Papyrus, and maybe it's Pirate Gaster.
Yeah.
But also, again, he uses the phrase, couldn't make it to the festival this year, which makes me think, at this point, if this is Papyrus, are they here? Right? I don't know. Susie also has an interesting line, I think in the weird route, where she says she can't remember whose house was there before Sans moved in, which I also think is interesting. I don't know what that is suggesting necessarily. Unless, Gaster, the Forgotten Man, unless that's what was there before. And Charlie, you have something about here on how this scene is different in the weird route.
I've played this chapter twice now. Once on my old save file that I was doing to play through it, and then once on my completionist save file. And I had talked to Rouse in chapter 3 about the ice cream at the festival, and he says it's get some for him. which leads to this interaction with Sans going differently, to where Susie says, "Oh yeah, Rousey said, he wanted ice cream. I'll draw him on here," and so it's implied he draws Noelle, Chris, and Rousey instead of Chris herself and Noelle.
Yeah, and that's an interesting distinction. It makes me wonder why the change, right? Why not just have it be Chris, Susie, Rousey, no matter what? So that is interesting. I'm like, surely that has to be significant in some way, but I have no clue on even where to start on why that would be significant. And so yeah, before we go on to this other slide, is there, Landon, anything you want to say about this punch card?
Nothing specific other than like maybe specific verbiage that's used, because it does say draw your friends.
Yeah.
So whenever it comes to the 3, Susie might be thinking like draws Noelle and Chris, just like, oh really, Rousey said that? Okay, bet.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's all I can think.
So yeah, obviously this furthers the theory, which is pretty much confirmed, which is that Sans comes from Deltarune. But there's still some questions here, and this is why I had this slide a second ago, like what's going on with him? Because I'm super confused, right? We still don't really have an explanation on why does his store look like Grillby's if it's from Undertale? Where's Papyrus, right? And like I said earlier, why does Sans only refer to him by brother? And at first, before chapter 5, I thought this version of Sans we were seeing was like kind of a humble, innocent Sans who isn't the kind of crazy, omniscient Sans, right? And like that's part of the tragedy of it, is this changes him when he gets to Undertale. But he seemingly can teleport like he can in Undertale, right? Like he's at his store, and then he's at the Ferris wheel, and then he's at the teacups. So it's like, does Sans, is he more like his Undertale counterpart than we understand? And if so, it's like, oh, does he like teleport all over the place? Is he actually from somewhere else and he comes to Deltarune and then he's forced into Undertale involuntarily? That's why I'm so confused, right? Is this is another thing that I thought I had it all figured out, but I have no idea what is going on with him, and also how he's going to add to the overall narrative, because something I got wrong from our prediction stream was I really thought that he was going to be a big character this chapter, and that he would help console Asgore, right? Like I totally thought Asgore was going to make the Dark Fountain after seeing Sans and Toriel become king and queen of the festival.
Right.
So that did not happen. So I'm just totally lost. I don't know what his overall purpose here, because it's not just going to be for lore, right? He has to be here for some story purpose. But I'm super confused. All we know is that this happens before Undertale, presumably. Otherwise, I don't know where he comes from.
It has to.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine it happens after Undertale, because there's too much going against that. But also, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I feel a little pedantic, right? It's like I don't have much to add here or say about Sans other than that I'm hella confused. Also, shout out to this art here from Miro Mirage on Twitter. Great Sans art. But it's got to be something, right? So I'm excited. I feel like this moment with the punch card is the game kind of telling us that there is some sort of tragedy we are going to see with Sans, right? Which kind of adds to kind of whole chapter 5's, like it kind of adds the whole idea that chapter 5 is deceptively happy, right? Because it's happy on the surface, but we know there's all this horrible stuff brewing underneath that the game is inevitably headed towards. So I do like it in that way, right? It's giving us something horrible to look forward to. Otherwise, that's all I have to say about Sans, is something's going on with this guy.
Agreed.
I guess. Sorry, I talked for a long time. Anyone else have something we want to say?
I do want to add a little thing. So I saw an interesting, I don't remember the exact person I saw this on Twitter, so I apologize on that. But I saw a theory that was, so we know in both the normal route that you play through and the weird route, there is some kind of relationship between a main character and Noelle. And if you look at like their fighting icons whenever they're in battle, obviously, like, Susie's is, like, the kind of pinkish purple that she usually is.
Mhm.
And Noelle's the yellow for hers. So a lot of people are thinking on, like, let's just say that route specifically. Since they're together, we might be able to see some kind of image friend like thing. But if you view it on the weird route, it's technically Chris and Noelle, and Chris's is blue. And very specifically, in Sansa's Undertale fight, his eyes flash blue and yellow.
If we do get,
I think a Sans weird route fight is entirely possible.
No way.
I think it's entirely possible.
That's like I respect that, but that would just blow my mind. That's crazy.
If we get Sans in the Dark World, I am gonna go crazy. If he is a fight or some sort of antagonist, that will surprise me. I guess in the weird route it would make sense because he's an antagonist in the genocide route. I have heard I really like the idea that his Dark World outfit would either just be his regular outfit but like red, in theme with Sans' laziness, or that his Dark World outfit is Papyrus to kind of further.
Oh, that'd be legendary.
To further poke at the player. So I'm really excited. I feel like he has to become more important at some point, right? I feel like he can't just be a background character forever, especially. I feel like the fact that he's likely Gaster's brother or family member means we have to get him in the forefront at some point eventually. Why else would there... if Gaster is the main villain, why else would there be this connection between the two characters if Sans wasn't going to be really important in some way?
Are we sure that, like, obviously we're not sure of this. Is it possible Papyrus doesn't even, like, exist yet? Like, could that have somehow, like, happened during the Deltarune? No, because he remembers the grass. It's impossible.
Because
he remembers the grass, but he doesn't remember the sun.
Yeah,
he doesn't remember the sun. Keep that in mind.
We talked about this in the last stream. I know Charlie had the idea that Papyrus is a child. But again, I keep going back to the line where he says earlier, where he says he couldn't make it this year. I'm like, what if Papyrus is also a multiverse traveling person, and he's literally just not there in hometown right now, and that's what Sans means?
He remembers the grass, but not the sun.
Yeah.
Have we seen the grass anywhere without the sun? Up to this point?
And the only area with grass in Undertale is Asgore's throne room.
Right.
So, this is where I feel so unproductive in this conversation, because I have no idea what is going to happen with him. All I know is I feel like the game is screaming in our face that there is something that is going to happen with Sans that will be important. Otherwise, I got no clue. Man, maybe when we talk more about Gastro later, we'll bring him up. Otherwise, I feel like I've exhausted all I can say about Sans here.
Yeah, at this point, Papyrus Night is not possible. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Landyn, sorry.
Yeah, I believe that. I only have one more thing to say. On the weird route, whenever you go by Sans, I'm pretty sure he gives you, like, a piece of bread or something.
Oh,
I feel like
you're
that's
right.
going to be that's going to be weirdly important. I feel like he's going to find them because they're leaving like a breadcrumb trail.
Oh yeah, literal breadcrumbs. So
literally,
I feel like we're gonna get some sort of like Captain America, Thor hype reveal with Sans in the future. Like we're gonna be in trouble, and then we're gonna hear Sans off screen or something. I don't know. I feel like something crazy is gonna happen with Sans here.
Gaster blasters, it's happening.
So yeah, I'm getting excited. You can tell I was excited to talk about Sans. All right, I guess should we move on? Because in short, I have no idea what's happening with Sans. Okay,
I don't want to drag on this section.
Yeah. I'm also really excited to talk about this. I know Charlie has some things to say as well. So
yeah,
way back in the day, back when Deltarune was known as Survey_Program, in like I don't think it was a Q&A. I think it was just like a fax that Toby Fox made. He said, "Yeah, this game only has one ending," and the whole time, like, that's been in question, right? And the last, hold on. I'll save the one ending stuff here in a second. First off, let's just talk about new information we get about the prophecy. So we still do not know what the last prophecy is. But we get some information, right? Rousey reiterates that, like, if the prophecy isn't fulfilled, everything is going to be destroyed, right? Which is kind of their whole conflict, is Rousey's like, why are you defying us, right? You know what's going to happen. And yeah, like Charlie kind of mentioned later, it's like the Flowers' whole conflict is a parallel to the Fun Gang, right? Because the Flowers know that their dark world is destined to be sealed, right? They know they are headed. They know that this dark fate is rapidly heading towards them, and that there's nothing they can do about it. And that's what's happening to our main characters, right? They saw the last prophecy, and they're doing everything they can to try and stop it. Um, but in their hearts, they know they probably can't do anything. Right, we get this great moment where Susie is insulted by Flowery's suggestion to shut down the castle town, right? Which is this great conflict, right? Susie and them are doing to the Flowers what they are so afraid of, which makes it such a compelling conflict. And you can see this in pink text here. This is exclusively my thoughts. For me, I think this pretty much confirms that the last prophecy is sealing all the dark fountains, including Castle Town, right? Because in Chapter 4, I mentioned this in our last stream, that when talking about when Susie says we're not going to let this happen, she singles out Rousey specifically and says Rousey especially won't let it happen. And I think that just makes sense here with the idea that, she's talking about sealing all the dark fountains, right? Because that makes sense that's what we're doing to Flowery, and that's what we're afraid of. And I think the game isn't mentioning this, right? It's saving this reveal because the game wants us to feel what the main characters feel, which is that we just want to ignore what the last prophecy said and naively believe that it can be changed. Which is I really think that is what the last prophecy is. So before I go into like what this says about the game's one ending, what do you guys think? Are we on the same page? Like, what do we think is the last prophecy?
I can get behind that. I was really thinking. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you were talking first. That's on me.
Oh, I guess I used to think it's that Susie had to die, and I thought that was going to lead to a whole like, Noelle Susie conflict. Like,
yeah.
Susie thinks she's not going to die, but then Noelle, like that whole thing. I am now of the same camp as you, because I now think that Susie would be less upset about her own death than sealing Castletown. And the reason I know that I think that to be true is because of what we saw both at the beginning of this chapter and at the end. So I agree, and I think all your points stand. So yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, right just before, real quick before Landyn speaks. Yeah, I forgot to mention like the whole ending, right? Like, I think this is even more true considering that Susie considers this her home, right? So I kind of feel like, she's in denial, right? She loves this place. That's basically her home. So they don't even want to mention the last prophecy. They just want to believe that they don't even need to mention it, that they are going to subvert it. And yeah, sorry, Landyn, go ahead.
So we know roughly the idea of like every chapter has its own little theme of escapism.
Yeah.
I think it would make a lot of sense that the final chapter does not deal with escapism, but deals with realism.
I think it's a good idea.
Like acceptance, like a final stage of grief.
Yeah, because and I think I mentioned this with my Rousey slides. I'm not sure. Like, we get this moment in the end of Chapter 5. It's like one of the most emotional moments in the game where we have to say goodbye to each of the individual flowers and watch them turn back into their light world counterparts. I think that is foreshadowing what's going to happen at the end of the game. I think, we're going to have to accept the truth that every Dark Fountain must be sealed. And we're going to go through Castletown, and we're going to have to say goodbye to everyone. We're going to say goodbye to Lancer. We're probably going to get this super heartbreaking moment where it's like you get to the end of the flowers, and Rousey says, all right, all that's left is Flowery. I think we're going to get a Rousey equivalent, where we're going to get to the end, and we're going to be like, all right, Rousey's the last one. And it's going to be this super... So I just think, in general, Chapter 5 is the fate of the flowers is foreshadowing what's going to happen at the end of the game.
What if you have this is so stupid, and I'm sorry, but what if you have Starwalker in your hometown, or not hometown, you're a Castletown, and you walk up to him, and he goes, I was the original Starwalker, and then he turns back. Dude, that'd be horrible.
This prophecy is pissing me off.
Yeah,
so that'd be legendary. So
agreed.
I feel like, again, this game throws surprises at us. I feel like again, the flowers are a foil to the main characters, right? And I feel like what's going to happen in this next few chapters is our characters having to accept the truth that the flowers could not, or they did not until they were forced to. And the game isn't showing us, but I think that's where it's headed, right? I don't think it's Susie dying. I don't think it's Noelle dying. I just think it's all Dark Fountains are sealed. Which then, before I go to this last slide, or last couple slides, anyone have anything else to say about the last prophecy before we go into, like, the idea of more than one ending?
I got my bit out. I'm good.
Okay, so I'm an English teacher, right? I'm English teacher brained, right? I thought I had this game so figured out before chapter 4. I thought this game is going to be about rewriting fate and choosing your own destiny and the power of your choices over your own life. And I'm not so sure anymore. I thought if the game didn't have more than one ending, the main plot would at least involve the main character subverting the prophecy. But I kind of don't think that's the case anymore. And I know you guys mentioned this as well. You probably agree. I think there is just going to be one ending, because this game's kind of whole deal is it's a parallel and kind of an opposite to Undertale, right? And it's kind of elaborating on Undertale's themes, but in the opposite direction. So Undertale is all about how your choices matter and how they affect those around you and how they can lead to positive change. And I think DELTARUNE is about the same thing, but I think it's about how your choices and the people you meet, the choices you make, the things you do while you with the time that you have, is important, even if the result is the same. Because we kind of see that with Flowey. You can see the screenshot I have up here. We kind of see that with Flowey, right? As he says, "I wish I wasn't so useless," and Rouse kind of he rebuts against this. He says, even though you weren't able to stop the night, you gave Asgore purpose by being something that he could take care of. So he couldn't change his fate. He couldn't change what happened in the end, but his life mattered anyway. And it kind of elaborates. We see that in chapter 3 as well, right? Like this whole chapter kind of continues chapter 3's themes of companionship and nostalgia, especially as Tenna wants to go back to being Chris's TV, and he's not able to do that, right? He's not able to change that, but that doesn't mean he can't make other choices and he can't be someone else's TV. So yeah, I just think it's sad, right? You want to believe that what a horrible thing is happening again is going to change, but I don't think that's the case anymore. Right? So, like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we on the same page?
No, yeah,
I can get behind that. The way that I view it is, going to Undertale again, they technically have different routes and endings, but they all end with you leaving the underground, no matter what.
A little bit. I would say it's at least slightly different.
It's gonna be more in depth than that, but
yeah, I think
it's that kind of analogy where it's like it's gonna be different routes and stuff, but no matter what, for Deltarune, you're gonna get the same ending, just with different context.
It's like with Undertale, it's like at least the states of the characters are different, right? And not everyone makes it out of the underground in the other routes. So I do think Deltarune is going to end with, like, the state of the world is the same, no matter what route you do it in. But yeah, I mean, again, like I said many times this stream, Deltarune is a hard game to predict. Maybe next chapter comes around and I'm totally wrong. But I think just especially in the fact that the entire existence of this game is kind of the opposite of Undertale, or a foil to Undertale. I think it makes sense that, no, it's not a trick, it's not a deception. There is just one ending, right? That, again, I even if we can't rewrite fate, right? The things we do along the way, like, matter. The things we do along the way still matter, right? We spare all the monsters, even though sparing all the monsters doesn't change the outcome of each chapter. It still was important. But that leads me into saying, I don't know though, because there are some things in this chapter that, like, make me question, well, is that what it's going for? Right? Because we get this great conversation with Flowery and Rouse, where he says, why don't you put your faith in yourself? Right? And Rouse says, like, oh, you want us to fight you. You want to see if I can defy fate. And then we have Gerson's boss fight in chapter 4, where he says he's talking to Susie. He says, "How do you want this to end?" Right? Which is so it's like, are we gonna change the ending? I have no idea. Right? It seems to be telling us two things at once. But because if the Fun Gang's choices do matter, if they can change it, then there has to be more than one ending, right? Just narratively, like if our choices do matter, then that it makes sense that the game could end multiple ways. But as I say here in the bottom, I got no clue, man. This is confusing. I think it's purposefully confusing, right? We're kind of meant to feel as troubled and unsure about this as the characters are. But
this is the ending I want. I'll say that.
What do you mean? Like, you want there to be multiple endings or just one?
Like, I think narratively, one ending makes sense and that would work great, like, storytelling wise. I want there to be multiple endings, personally.
Yeah, and it's like oh, sorry, you finish your thought.
No. I was gonna say, like, I personally would feel much more accomplished if there was multiple endings. However, I'd be fine with either. Just personal preference wise, I want multiple endings. I just don't know how likely it is.
But I just also feel that, like, oh, this game is taking us through the same emotions as the characters. Like that's why the last prophecy hasn't been shown. Is the game wants us to believe that no, it can be changed. That we should be as hopeful as these characters are. That surely there must be more than one ending. There has to be. But I think, like, oh, we're gonna have to go through the same revelation and acceptance that the characters are, which is no, it is. There's nothing we can do to change what happens. But that doesn't mean the people we met, the things we did weren't just as important. So that's kind of my take. Landon, is there anything you want to say?
No, I really got nothing.
All right. So I'm really interested in this. I feel like that is just kind of inevitably where the game is headed. It's sad, but I feel like, again, we're supposed to be sad. We're supposed to kind of see this as unsatisfying. And I think that's what's going to make it work in the end, right? We're going on the same journey that these characters are. So that's all I have to say on this. Let's talk about Chris. I think I just have a couple slides for Chris. Yeah. At the beginning of the chapter, I feel like we all pretty much agree on this. Like, it seems to be that Chris cannot survive without the soul, right? Their skin is kind of green. It looks like their skin is rotting at the beginning. And also, again, we apparently Chris was doing things off screen, obviously, that we didn't get to see, right? When you're talking to Toriel, if you say, I think if you say you didn't leave your room all night or whatever, she says that Sans told her that he saw you, or he saw Chris with Susie. So Chris presumably went to go talk to Susie. We're not sure about what. But they were out all night. And so presumably they can't survive without the soul. So before we go into what we don't know, like, are we kind of on the same page that without the soul, like, Chris cannot survive without the soul?
For sure. I concur. Because I don't see any reason in Chris's character for them to continuously be putting the soul back if that wasn't the case.
Yeah, because, like...
I want to...
Yeah, sorry. No, it's cool. Finish what you're saying, Landon.
It's a separate thought, so I was going to let you do your thing.
Because, why else wouldn't they just keep it out of their body forever? So it's like, my questions are like, how long has Chris had the soul? Have they had it their entire life? Right? Like, I don't really say anything about Kressel theory in here, but if that's true, then presumably Chris was made with the soul, right? And they hate it, right? Because we know Chris has had struggles with their identity and not wanting to be a human. So, and before we go into that, then go ahead, Landon, with what you wanted to bring up.
So you just mentioned it. I was going to bring up Kressel theory.
Yeah.
Because if you use a color picker on this specific scene and go on Chris's skin, it is not green.
Really?
It is a saturated yellow. Like, it is or desaturated, I should say, because it is like a grayish yellow. So it's slowly becoming grayer.
So
copies are monochrome.
So I'm not sure. It's like I'm not. If Chris, maybe if I don't know. This I got no clue, man. Maybe Chris, what? Maybe without a soul, Chris turns back into a vessel. But in that case, how do they meet the soul? So I'm really not sure, and it also makes me wonder, like, is is part of Chris's character going to be reconciling with the soul, like accepting it in some way? Because they seemingly can't survive without it. Um, that kind of seems to be where it's heading. Is Chris accepting their own identity? Um, but I'm not sure. But I feel like maybe this is foreshadowing that maybe we're gonna get a scene where Chris comes close to death when they haven't had the soul for a while. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Right? It's Chris is a big question mark for me right now.
I do think they've always had some sort of soul. Rather
you
it be
so?
This soul that has been imbued with our consciousness, or if it was a different soul that's been replaced.
Yeah, which I could see it going in that direction as well. Do we want to say anything about the soul before we talk about kind of what happens with Chris at the end of chapter 5?
I kind of have some things to say, but I'm gonna hold on to it just because
Sure.
I don't want to drag on this section too long. Because there is more stuff I would rather talk about.
Sure. So, all right, let's talk about.
Okay.
Oh, what's up?
Sorry, before we start with this slide, because of TikTok terms and services, please be very careful.
Oh, sure.
With what we say. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll use TikTok safe language here.
Okay. Perfect.
So the end of chapter 5, right? The game brings a lot of attention to this packet of seeds that Chris brings up, and the game specifically mentions that they're covered in warning labels. Most people have picked up on this already. This seems to be a callback to the Buttercups in Undertale. Again, using TikTok language, right? We know Chara unalived themselves by eating them. And so this seems to be a parallel to that, and kind of my theory is that whatever plan Chris has, right? They're working with the knight. Maybe, as we kind of mentioned earlier, maybe they feel guilty, they feel responsible for what happened in December, and they're trying to undo it. And maybe whatever happens at the end of Chris's plan, they're going to feel so guilty, or that they feel like they won't be able to live with themselves, and they'll consume the seeds, right? I've heard some people have the theory that they're going to poison someone else. I kind of don't think so. I mean, Chris is a traitor, but
right.
I just don't really see it in their character to deliberately kill somebody else. So I think that's where this is headed. I think we probably won't get a follow-up on this till chapter 7. But that's kind of my thinking on what this is suggesting. What do you guys think?
I mean, wishful thinking would be we get 45 floweries in Castletown.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with your theory.
Landon, what do you think?
I don't have a whole lot to add to this. I feel like everything that's been said is what's more likely going to be set in stone.
No, so I do not think that we will see the death of Chris. I do agree with Chris loses their hand theory in terms of like, oh, how is Chris going to be altered by the end of this game? I think that is where it's headed. We don't have to talk about that now here. I actually forgot to include any slides about Susie. Sorry, Susie. But yeah, I kind of.
This wasn't really her chapter.
Yeah, but I do like the idea that like, Chris ends the game having lost their hand, and they learn to play the piano alongside Susie. Right, because you got that dialogue option in chapter 4 when Chris is talking about the piano. Susie asks if Chris will ever play the piano again, and they say, if you play too. Right, so I can see it ending that way as Chris loses their hand, and so Susie helps them play the piano. So I do not think Chris will consume these seeds in the end, but I think that is their intention. That's all I have to say about Chris. Is there anything else we want to say? Otherwise, we're going to talk about Asgore next.
I'm ready to talk about Asgore.
Just a slight bit on the hand thing.
Yeah.
I just thought of it. If Crustle is true, what if the moment that the hand's cut off, it immediately starts turning gray?
That would be pretty crazy. I could see seeing something where maybe Chris gets cut, or I don't know, they get attacked in some way, and maybe part of their skin falls off, and we see it turn gray, and it's foreshadowing towards that. That is a cool idea, though. All right, it's time.
I personally fall into the camp that the vessel will be its own different thing.
Yeah, I could see it heading there as well. I mean, regardless, I think we all agree the vessel's going to come up in some way in the end.
Absolutely.
Okay, my GOAT, Asgore. He's my favorite character in both games. We get some interesting things with him. Some things I said in my Chapter 4 theory were correct. I think out of everything not my Chapter 4 theory, my Chapter 5 prediction stream, I think, Charlie, we got the most correct with Asgore out of anything. But I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like we can't brag too much, right? It's like you can kind of predict everything that happens with Asgore if you just pay attention previously.
Although I got pretty close with Flowery.
You did get that there'd be some sort of Flowery offshoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's cool. The original Dark Fountain, right? So Asgore's notes, they reveal that kind of what we thought is that there was an original incident involving a Dark Fountain, but what we did not know is this is where he presumably gets his Black Shard in Chapter 4. And unless I'm misinterpreting this, right, because this is just what the scene suggests, it suggests that he finds another one at the computer lab. So the knight leaves these at whatever fountains they make. And it confuses Rousey, because Rousey says, well, the knight's supposed to show up alongside the heroes. So if the knight made the original fountain, how does that make any sense? So kind of what we don't know is, well, did December... So this puts Death Knight into question, right? This is everyone questioning it. It's like, did December become the knight and then make the fountain? Or is someone else the knight and she wanders into a fountain that they make? And also, we still don't know who the old friend Asgore mentions. My theory is that it's Rudy, right? Especially since, Flowery is kind of patterned after Rudy, right? What doesn't Flowery call himself his roommate?
Yeah,
and we know
his college roommate.
Yeah, and we know that Rudy was Asgore's college roommate. So I think that's what he's still referring to. Hold on, let me check the next slide real quick. Yeah. So what are our thoughts on this original fountain? How does it affect just the timeline of the night?
Since I buy Death Knight, I went ahead and put this on the at the bottom. But assuming Death Knight is correct, I would imagine that the opener of the original Dark Fountain wasn't Death's. They made the fountain, and then Death was claimed as a vessel. That's my thoughts on if Death Knight does end up being correct. I don't think she opened the original Dark Fountain. I also don't think she's fully in control as the Knight. But that's just me.
Yeah, or maybe Chris if Chris feels guilty for what happened, maybe Chris made the Dark Fountain, right? We know Chris had a difficult childhood. Maybe I'm thinking about this just now. Maybe they made a Dark Fountain and hoping they could live out their life as a monster in the Dark Fountain. I'm not sure. But I do agree that it makes December Night a little more complicated. Landyn, you got any thoughts?
I know we briefly discussed this the other night, but I do feel like the original Dark Fountain may be the shelter.
I agree. I think this is the first one, and we'll talk about this more in the last and then in the next couple slides. I think that's the original Dark Fountain, and it's been shut and sealed off with the people who know about it trying to research it before they go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not sure how it would have been made in the first place, but I do feel like, and this kind of going off with the original prediction stream that y'all did, I feel like Asgore and some of the other people witnessed Death go into the either witness desk, go into the shelter and not come out.
Yeah.
Or Chris witnessed it themselves, told like their adults about it, and they're all planning on like trying to get Des back.
Yeah,
and other than that, I am not sure.
Yeah, because we still don't know what Asgore's involvement is, right? Again, the vague post king, right? We don't know exactly why he felt so much self-hatred and why he felt like he was to blame. But regardless, I think the shelter was the first Dark Fountain, and it's the catalyst for everything that happens in the story. And that leads us into this slide. And technically, this is not confirmation. I'm not going to jump the gun and say I was right from my prediction stream. But I am going to say I think it's a soft confirmation that of what I said in my prediction stream, which is that Asgore does not know as much as Carol and maybe even Rudy. Because in Chapter 4, I always got the vibe that, he's working with Carol, but he doesn't know as much. He's being used as kind of a pawn. Because we know Carol's working with Chris, right? But Asgore doesn't know that. He thinks this is Chris's first time in a Dark Fountain. And again, this line he has here, we can tell the mayor about everything we saw, kind of tells me that, like, Asgore thinks Carol knows as much about Dark Fountains as he did before Chapter 5 happened.
He's also unaware that Chris is opening the Dark Fountains.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just think this one line confirms that, like, he's kind of being used as a pawn. Which, if that is the case, then what's his role in all this, right? It seems that maybe Chris and Carol are trying to fulfill the prophecy, right? And maybe Asgore doesn't even know about the prophecy. I don't know. Or at least the full prophecy. But I kind of take this as a soft confirmation of that he is in the dark. No pun intended when it comes to this thing. So I guess before we go into him being kidnapped, anyone else have anything to say about that? We good?
Not particularly, yeah.
Okay, I know all the...
I want to add one little thing.
Sure.
For a reason, he might be feeling that way as to like why he feels guilty about everything. He was the police chief.
Yeah.
It is his duty to protect the town and the citizens. So he might feel like he failed because, you know, Des got kidnapped or ran away, or locked in the shelter, or whatever.
Yeah, which I think that's a pretty likely outcome. But I know we all have our own theories on this, which is, why does the Knight kidnap Asgore, and by extension Undyne and their attempt to kidnap Toru? So yeah, Asgore gets kidnapped. So the big question is what's the Knight's plan with these people? My idea is, which many people have had, is that, are they kidnapping people who they know have the codes of the shelter? And if that's the case, like, does the Knight, and by extension Chris, do they not know where the codes are? Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just go take them? So my idea is that if they are kidnapping these people for this reason, they don't know where the codes are, right? Because Chris tries to tear the code at the end of Chapter 5 before Susie intervenes. And if Chris knew the code was there, they would just go find it and destroy it beforehand. So maybe that's what this is. Regardless, which we're going to talk about this when we talk about the last shelter code. I think if this is the motivation for the Knight kidnapping these people, I think that's a big clue on where the last shelter code is, the one associated with the DELTARUNE. So that's kind of my thinking. But it could be for something else, right? Charlie, I know you have something here that you can go ahead and say.
I don't disagree with that. I can get behind that. But alternatively, if we wanted to look at this a little more at face value,
yeah.
Another possibility would be the Knight trying to eliminate any witnesses with credibility. For example, the only people who have went into Dark Fountains and returned are children, who very easily could be, kind of brushed off as not being trustworthy, right? Like, for any number of reasons. So in order to prevent Dark Fountains being perceived as a real threat, the Knight took away Undyne and Asgore because both of them would have said something, and they perceived Toriel as a threat, seeing as she could have woken up, you know.
Yeah, which that's a possibility as well. So because and our very this ties in our very next slide is about the shelter codes. So that's my thoughts on maybe what their motivations are in terms of kidnapping people. Landyn, is there anything you want to say, or do you want to save it for the shelter code slide?
I will just briefly mention, because I do want to talk about the shelter codes, obviously.
Yeah.
But and I have it written down in my notes. The original idea that I had was the knight was kidnapping people with shelter codes in order to get in the shelter, but then it kind of got rebuked because obviously, like we know, obviously that's probably where the knight's been hiding this entire time.
Yep.
From the start of the game.
Yep. I mean, and then
so
again, we don't see them.
We also see.
Sorry, I was saying, yeah. I mean, we don't see their light world form, but presumably the knight goes into the shelter at the end of chapter 3, right? Now, like, it could be someone else, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read off verbatim what I have in my notes because I think it's easier. All right, I like the original idea of the knight kidnapping people for the shelter codes, but if the knight's goal was to enter the shelter, it seems pointless to kidnap Asgore when we know the knight was able to enter the shelter after kidnapping Undyne.
And then, well, hold on. Are you saying the knight is kidnapping these people so they can get into the shelter?
For the knight specifically.
So
that's what I was originally thinking, but I no longer believe that because of this, like, most recent kidnapping.
Yeah, and because I think the knight and also Carol, maybe the same person. We don't know. We'll talk about that in a moment. We know they see Susie as a threat. And that Chris probably wants to do everything they possibly can to stop Susie and also us, the player, from going into the shelter. And I think, yeah, yes. the knight is helping them with that goal. If our interpretation is correct, and that's why they're kidnapping these people, I think that makes sense. But again, it could be for another reason. But that being said, are we ready to go into the shelter codes?
Yeah, you said everything I needed to right there with the kidnapping to keep us out.
Okay, excuse me. Shelter codes. I made a note here to mention this. This is the modern day equivalent of the 3 journals from Gravity Falls, right? It's like we're in season 1 of Gravity Falls right now. We know where the 3 codes are, the 3 journals. We know where 2 of them are, and we don't know where the 3rd final one is.
Finally, I have them all.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that. So we get our first shelter code, the one associated with the officer's badge, which makes sense that Asgore had it since he was the police chief, and it kind of lines up with what Landyn said earlier, or what all of us said earlier, which is that Carol, Asgore, anyone involved in this initial event sealed the shelter off and hid the codes so that way no one can get into it as they research what's going on. But they get the code. Coincidentally, the code resembles Undertale's release date, September 15th. I don't know if that's going to have any significance or if that's just an Easter egg, but that's what it says. All right, and we already know the pine tree is on Des's guitar, right? Yeah. Which presumably is going to be much more hidden in the next chapter. Right? Assuming we'll get into chapter 6 specifically later, but I assume the conflict of chapter 6 is going to be finding the guitar. But what we don't know is where is the 3rd final code, the one represented by the DELTARUNE on the sheltered door. So, and Landyn kind of echoes this here, and I agree with him. I think Toriel is a very likely candidate, because at first I thought the code would be at the church, right? But seemingly no, that's not where it is. But Toriel does go to church, right? So she has some sort of connection to the prophecy in some way, and I can totally see chapter 6 ending. Like, maybe the knight kidnaps Toriel and we finally get to see inside her locked room that we haven't been able to access the whole game. And that's where we find the final code. Now, and that would explain why the knight tried to kidnap Toriel in chapter 3, right? Because if the knight is kidnapping those who know the codes, then it would make sense that right? They were unsuccessful in kidnapping Toriel, but Undyne likely knew it as well, so he just kidnapped Undyne. So what do we think in terms of candidates? Like, are we on board with Toriel, or do we have other ideas?
Toriel makes.
It has to be Toriel because I don't see another reason why the Knight would try and kidnap Toriel.
Yeah.
Alternatively, what if that code isn't going to be found with somebody? And alternatively, it's like in the Lord of the Hammer or something. I don't know how that would end up working out.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No, go ahead, please.
Because it's like every code has had the badge is obvious, or not badge. The symbol on the shelter door has lined up somehow with the code, right? Again, that's guitar, right? It's the holidays, right? They, Pine Tree, December and all that. And then obviously the police chief with Asgore. So it's like, it's got to do something with the prophecy or someone who knows the prophecy. So, but it's, and seemingly the codes are owned by people who had something to do with that original incident. And obviously Toriel was close with the Holiday family. Even after the incident, right, in the Tenna flashback, Rudy is the last person to leave. Right, so they were still close.
Right.
So that's kind of my thinking. But yeah, like, it could be in a copy of Lord of the Hammer. I don't know, maybe it's something crazy, like frickin' Gaster has it or something, right? Since he's the one orchestrating all of this, seemingly. But for now, my guess is with Toriel. I think that would be a great cliffhanger to leave Chapter 6. Is like, maybe the when we're about to seal the Dark Fountain, like, the Knight tells us that we know that's where they're headed, and we panic, leave the Dark Fountain, and by the time we get to Chris's house, Toriel has already been kidnapped, and the room is in shambles, and then that's where we find the last code. But again, this game typically is very hard to predict, but I think that makes sense right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I'll buy it.
And that's the only slide I have on the shelter codes. Was there anything else we wanted to say about this? We're good?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I have a little thing.
Sure.
So we obviously see that in this photo, like, the full code is like September 15th of 1990 blank.
Uh-huh.
I think it's, well, obviously, like, we know that was the Undertale release date, but whatever. I have a feeling that the codes are going to relate to birthdays for these children.
You think
so? I think
so?
this is Asriel's birthday, and I think, because we obviously know the guitar code is 1225.
Right,
but
that's a good idea.
There might be more to it. Like, there might be a year at the end of it.
Genius.
That's a good idea. And then, like, and then, then that makes me wonder, would the third final code be Deltarune?
Chris's birthday.
It would be Chris's birthday. If Toriel has it.
Yeah, or I was going to say the release date of Deltarune Chapter 1.
Ooh.
But
that's true.
But I like that idea. I think that's really compelling.
I buy that. That's cool.
Other than that, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think I've said everything I have to say on this. Are we good?
Yeah. It'd be funny if, like, Toriel's code was just, like, a bookmark in our Bible or whatever.
Okay. I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit. I mean, I have plenty of time.
Yeah. Good God, there's so much.
No, it's okay. Right, again, we can skip some sections if we need to. All right, Rousey. I actually have a lot to say about Rousey. Right, I tried not to say too much in the Discord chat because I wanted to talk about Rousey. We still not know what Rousey's Light World equivalent is, but we do get a very interesting line from Flowery, where again Flowery says, like, "Oh, you in your heart you want me and the other flowers defy you to see if we can defy fate." And which Rousey says, "No one can do the impossible," and then Flowery says the impossibility himself. Right, I remember when me and Charlie played this kind of made us pause in our tracks. Because it's like, yeah, what does this mean? Like, so seemingly, whatever Rousey is, he seemingly shouldn't exist, right? His mere existence defies reality or whatever. So I think there's a couple possibilities for this. My personal favorite, and then I think Charlie's as well, is that, and I can't take credit for this. This person on Reddit, Vakothu, said that maybe Rousey is an anti-Titan. If Titans are the fear of the dark, Rousey is the comfort found in the dark. and says, oh, this makes sense, right? It's like, oh, well, when you make a dark fountain inside a dark world, it creates a Titan. So did this happen? But instead, Rousey was created instead. But I also think it lines up with the game's themes of escapism, right? That we see escapism can be this dangerous thing when taken too far, right? Like Susie's literally living in a supply closet right now, and kind of popular fan speculation is she's in denial of the prophecy. But right. Escapism can be a good thing as well and help us retreat from the scary things about the real world. And I think that makes perfect sense, right? Is Rousey is this embodiment of escapism and stories and comfort. Now, although I don't know, you can see I put this here. I don't know how that explains how he can freely travel between dark worlds, which the next theory I'm about to explain would.
I actually, my thoughts on how you can travel between dark worlds is that since Susie and Chris ended up finding comfort through their adventures, it's possible that would be what allows him to travel, because the comfort is being found in every dark world they're in. However, there are some holes in that theory, such as how he appeared in Chapter 1, and also, like, when they're freaking out why he's still there. But yeah.
So, and this is my preference, in terms of what he would actually be. But I will say the next thing I'm about to describe has been growing on me, mainly because of what it would implicate, what would happen in the game's ending. But before I talk about that, Landyn, was there anything you want to say either about this theory or just Rousey in general?
I really don't have a lot for Rousey. I got no idea what that dude's got going on.
That's cool. Okay. So I initially did not like this theory, but I gotta admit it's growing on me. Another theory is that Rousey is a tree in Hometown. And I think where this theory began is, in the artwork for the piano collections, right? I think you guys should be able to see. Yeah, you can see my mouse on stream, barely. Yeah, Chris, Susie, and Rousey in the dark world. And then you see their light world equivalent. And then Rousey's place, where he normally is instead a tree. Now, I don't think that's entirely compelling on its own. But I do think, like, this could also be narratively compelling. Like, maybe a reason he can, like, maybe, like, beyond, we haven't seen what's beyond the police tape next to the station. Maybe Rousey is this huge tree, and that's where he is. And maybe his roots spread across all underneath the town, and that's why he can freely travel between dark worlds, is because he is everywhere. His roots encompass the whole town. Right? There's also, right, we know there's a prophecy called Roots and a song in the game that we know we're going to hear eventually called Roots. So maybe that has something to do with this. But also doesn't really explain why he looks like Azrael and how would him being a tree translate into knowing about the prophecy. But I think a reason I like this a lot is just I imagine the end of the game. Like, again, we mentioned, like, it's going to be super sad. You're going to say goodbye to all the Darkners. The last prophecy sealing the Dark Fountain. I just imagine that happening, sealing the Dark Fountain. And it's super sad, right? Rousey has effectively died. And I imagine maybe you visit this tree. And maybe you interact with it. And it has some dialogue like, you notice the leaves on the tree have begun to wilt. I don't know. Just... it's like the opposite of aura. It's sad aura. Just the idea of how much of a gut punch that would be just kills me. And I almost want it to happen just because of that. So I don't know. That's kind of... I'm not... Again, I prefer this one, right? I prefer the idea that he's an anti-Titan. But I think this one has potential as well. Any of you guys got anything to comment on that? Otherwise, we'll move on from Rousey.
I think every other possibility, for me at least, is out the door at this point.
Yeah, so, like, I can see what... Oh, sorry, there's a loud freaking car outside my house. I can see why some people believe this, but it's got too many question marks for me to fully buy in. But, goodness, sorry, someone's, like, skidding outside my house. I can hear them. All right, I'm good. But I just think it would make for, like, a horribly sad ending. Otherwise, I vibe with the anti-Titan theory. I also didn't put it here. Rouse also uses fire magic. There are things that he continues to hide from us. And we did see Rouse kind of crash out this chapter, right? With him kind of, he's starting to let parts of himself leak out that he doesn't want to, right? Because I think Rouse wants to follow the prophecy, and in the prophecy, he's supposed to be a prince and kind of gentle. But he uses his fire magic, which we didn't know existed, to save Susie. So I think we are going to see like a Rouse crash out or like some sort of rage where he just goes ballistic and he is like revealed to be the strongest character in the game.
Right.
Because that's got to come to fruition in some form, right? That, oh, Rouse can do these things that we didn't know he could do beforehand. Otherwise, that's all I got to say about Rouse. All right, we good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's time.
Okay, the night! All right.
Tonight.
I am kind of half serious with what I'm going to say with this one, but let's just get into it first. Because, yeah, that leads into the holidays. All right, Landon, you made this slide. Why don't you narrate this one?
Okay, yeah, I got that. So, I'm just gonna read verbatim again.
No problem.
They are attempting and succeeding at kidnapping Light Nurse. So far, they might try and do Dark Nurse, but I don't know how that would work, really. All these characters have coincidentally appeared in Undertale, so
I'll comment on that once you're done with your slide. I have a thought on that.
I think that might be, and I'm not going to impede too much on that because I'll let you get your thought out. That might be a Gasterism, but I'm not sure about that. But anyways, moving on. Just brief synopsis again. Asgore and Undyne were successfully taken away. Toriel managed to be saved by the gang in Undyne. We have no idea what their motivation is whatsoever. Because, and I have it written down here, if the Knight actually wanted to cause the roaring and end the world, that would have happened by now.
Yeah.
So it seems fair to assume that they are following the prophecy 1-to-1. And this could, like, be related to, like, some unknown goal with the Holiday family or under Gaster's orders because he wants his story to play out the way it needs to, whatever. But it is very strange to me that they could have been doing a lot more already, but they're specifically following beat for beat on the prophecy.
Yeah, I agree. So, like, I think Chris, the Knight, and Carol, again, maybe the same person, we don't know. I think that's their goal, is to fulfill the prophecy. So I think there is their motive. Now, why they want to do that, again, that depends who the Knight is, which I guess we're about to get into. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you say here.
I do as well. And expanding upon the Undertale connection, I'm almost starting to think that whoever's in the bunker, if it's a bad ending, like let's say our ending theories are just wrong, and like the universe collapses in on itself leading into Undertale, which I don't think is going to happen. But if it did, it's possible that everyone who's in the bunker ends up in Undertale, and everyone outside does not. Which could also lead to goners or whatever.
That is possible. Now, I just don't know if the games are going to tie into each other that blatantly. Is my
right.
But I think it's a possibility for sure.
Like I said, there's a lot of things that I don't believe are going to happen in order for that to happen. So take that with a grain of salt.
And then, I guess with that being said, do we want to get into the holidays, or does anyone else have anything to say?
I kind of want to go off of that because I like the idea of that, but again, this is another thing that Toby mentioned. This is not technically a prequel or a sequel. It is just a parallel story.
Right. So.
Right.
And also, I don't know how that would, even if this was a prequel, let's just go with that. How, unless it's like a weird Gaster split himself across time, so he's always existed like that.
Yeah, like
I don't know how he would be there first and then go into Undertale with him getting it shattered.
I'm glad you bring that up because again, the timeline is all over the place. It's like, so was Gaster in Undertale first, and then he ends up in Deltarune? And if that's the case, if Sans is his sibling, why isn't Sans in Undertale first, right? Or like, have they are they just multiversal beings and Sans just ends up getting stuck there? I literally have no answer. Right? The timeline seems super messy, and I feel like no matter what I say, I'm just gonna be wrong. So I don't even really want to theorize.
Yeah, there's just more info we need on the night, and in general to get this solid answer out.
But yeah, I do agree that like they're probably trying to fulfill the prophecy alongside Chris, and as to why, we'll probably figure that out next chapter. I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we get to move on.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
What's up with the holidays?
All right, I've been looking forward to this one, kind of half jokingly. Let's talk about Carol first, right? Before I get too excited.
Hold on, wait. First of all, can we all agree before we start that the night is a holiday?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like it's going to be either one of the holidays or like a weird variation of them, but it's related to the holidays.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
That will probably be the last point we agree on for the rest of this segment. So let's ride.
Cool.
Okay. Sorry, I'm halfway through a bite of a Cliff Bar right now. My apologies for the unprofessionalism.
Legendary selection.
Okay. Okay, I'm good. Okay. Because, yeah, we have a Carol Nighter, a Rudy Nighter, and a Des Nighter all on the stream here.
Indeed.
So, first off, let's just start with Carol. She does not appear at all in Chapter 5. Instead, Rudy says she's investigating, a.k.a. the shelter, right? That's the only place that is south of where he says this. Right, we learn he was aware of what happened with the guitar, and he somewhat successfully calmed Carol down. Now, we don't know what she's investigating, right? Now, if our homies, Snowdrake and Monster Kid, went down, because we can't find them, maybe they disappeared down there, maybe that's what she's doing, or maybe she's inside the shelter. Either way, that's where she is. And yeah, for any our spooky dude enjoyers in here, right? He just made his big theory that Carol is the Night, and you guys can present your own arguments here in a second. My big reasoning against it is obviously there is foreshadowing for her being the Night. My big problem with it is like, if that's the case, it's like, why wouldn't you make it less blatant? Like, for me, it's like the game is just screaming at you that it's a red herring. It's like, why wouldn't you make it more subtle, right? If you're a Rudy Nighter, right, it's like, oh, the evidence is more subtle and not as concrete, right? So it makes it more interesting because we don't know, right? So that's kind of why I feel like she can't be the Night, because it's
for
just
a non-theorist Des Nighter. I feel like it's also kind of not super in your face, but it kind of is, you know?
Because it's like Chapter 4, right after we see the reveal of the Night, the phone call. With your first time playing, you assume that Chris is talking with the Night. At least that's what I did. And then she shows up right after Chris gets off the phone with her. So it's like, and I feel like any casual player, I feel like when that happens, the game isn't even wanting you to think that she's the Night. For me, it's the game telling you, all right, this is so obvious that it's got to be someone else. So it's technically still possible, but obviously I have a favorite in this race. So I am very excited for Carol's role in this. I think she's 100% involved somehow. But I just think, like, if she is the Night, I don't know how they make that reveal exciting, right? It's like, if that's the case, I don't know why you wouldn't have made it. I don't know why you wouldn't make people dig for that answer a little bit more. Right. But Landyn, I know you have things to say with Carol, so I'll let you take the reins here.
I really can't say more that Spooky hadn't.
Yeah.
It's just every point that Spooky made sense to me, and I couldn't find a way to get around it. It's like, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and because I agree with you, like, I think the evidence does logically make sense. It's just like, when you're looking at this as a story, right? It's like, it's like the game is presenting it as if it wants you to. I'm like, it's making it so obvious. It's the game screaming at you. It's your sign to think, okay, this is a little too in my face. Who else could it be? Right? For me, yeah, that's the game's sign, like,
for a casual player who maybe wasn't thinking of the Knight's identity to begin thinking of other options. So
of course, the evidence is going to make sense for a red herring.
Yeah, like that's
the point.
So like that's my opinion. I just don't know how they make that not a disappointing reveal. Is my argument.
Carol, the red-nosed herring, man. I'm telling you.
Excuse me. And now we're going to talk about Rudy, and I think the arguments against him, people are being a little obtuse, including Spooky. Sorry, so now let's get into him. Rudy, a.k.a. the Knight. I'm just kidding. I'm not entirely convinced it's him anymore. But we're going to talk about Rudy. Right now, it's TBD on whether this dude is dead or alive. He is alive in the weird route, which makes me think that, yeah, this dude is not dead. Probably not in good condition, but I don't think he's dead. Also, he presumably fell off the ladder when he was next to Flower King, right? When you get out of Flower King, the lights trail off, I think, at Caddy's house? I'm not sure. Either way, it's very close to Flower King. And also weird rat stuff. Rudy tells Susie that holiday... She says at some point it'll be good to learn that holidays are always full of surprises. She says good surprises, and he says it depends on which holiday.
And that's during the weird route? Sorry?
That's during the weird route. He does not say that during regular route. So if Rudy is not the Knight, he is at least 100% involved somehow. But if he is the Knight, I think people are a little obtuse when they debunk this. I think people aren't being... People are making all these arguments saying, oh, it just logically doesn't make sense. I just don't think you're thinking hard enough. Right, the common argument against Rudy Knight this chapter is, oh, he's in the hospital. How could he get away without being distracted? It's like, Carol is the mayor, right? And Carol is working with Chris. If she wanted to make an opening for Rudy to get over there, she would have been able to. Right, she would have been able to help get him to Flower King. And I think the timing adds up. Like Chapter 3, the Knight is late. They don't get there until the very end of the chapter. I think if Rudy had fallen down, it would make sense that, oh, he gets there later. And maybe Chris was expecting Rudy to open the fountain. And he only does it after Rudy unexpectedly falls down, and then Chris has to do it. So I won't go into all the Rudy Knight evidence here because we did that in the last prediction stream. But it's like, I think that explains the nature of Rudy's sickness, right? People say, oh, well, how does this make sense narratively? How is it satisfying? It's like, I feel like that's very clear. It's like, oh, it's a dad who's trying to do everything he can to get his daughter back. Right. And I think it makes sense that, oh, Rudy is like... Rudy's the brawn behind the situation. He's the one being the Knight, and maybe being the Knight is what is making him sick. And then Carol is using her power as the mayor for her to make openings for him to open the fountains.
And maybe there's a piece of the prophecy, and the reason they're following the prophecy so closely is because they want this to happen, where Des returns.
Possibly. So again, I'm not entirely convinced. Right, at this point, the game is waiting so long to tell us who the Knight is that I feel like it kind of has to be someone who's with a more complicated answer. Because, yeah, Rudy has easy to miss evidence, but it's not like when you piece it all together, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I understand why he would do that. And I think it's probably just going to be more complicated than that. So, in my heart, I'm a Rudy Knighter, right? I think the arguments people use to debunk it are silly. It's like... Again, his wife is the mayor, right? She could probably do any number of things to get him to where he needs to be. But I'm not convinced. I just think it's not set in stone yet, right? Like, for example, Spooky Dude says, oh, Rudy is definitely not the Knight. It's like, okay, we shouldn't be shutting it down so quickly here.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say. Obviously, you know, I'm the Rudy Knight guy. Anyone else want to say anything before we get to December?
I'm good on Rudy.
We're good?
I have a little thing. I think it's entirely possible that we get some kind of dialogue in relation to, because again, I do think it is possible that Rudy could find a way to get out in time. But if Noelle is by her father, I do not think she would let him get out of that bed. I'm being so real. He's like, no, you're not getting up. You sit your ass
distracted.
I can understand that, but I just think like, oh, it's late at night. Carol says, "Oh, honey, we need to go. Right, we'll visit your dad in the morning," or maybe Rudy will be in hospice care next chapter, and it says, "Oh, let's go. They're gonna bring dad to the house later." So like, I really don't think
he would be running late.
Again, and again, Carol is working with Chris, right? And if Rudy is the knight, it's like, well, yeah, she's gonna make an excuse for them to leave. So I think those are reasonable counter arguments against Rudy Knight, but it's like, I by no means think that like, oh, this is deconfirmed. I think absolutely not. It's still up in the air.
Right.
But that's it for Rudy Knight. Let's talk about December. So I actually did not see this until recently. I forgot to check the updated unused text, right? And I think we're pretty much all on the same page. Everyone thinks this is December.
Gotta be.
And let me just read this real quick. So the unused text for Chapter 5 is, I do have one thing, though, and that's memories of my life. Maybe that's all I am at this point, a collection of memory. Then all I can do is not forget, right? Don't forget. I just have to keep telling myself that. So for me, I think the lines "don't forget" are also in "Raise Up Your Bat" in Chapter 3, which I forgot. But I think this is just further confirmation that maybe December is the narrator of "Don't Forget" from the Chapter 1 credits.
Right.
And
which goes with her musical stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. And so if December is the night, I think I raised up this theory, I don't know if it was just to Charlie or to both of you guys, that maybe the night is a parallel to Chris, in that maybe December is trapped inside the night, but something is puppeteering her body. She can't control her actions as the night, maybe. Because this dialogue to me is screaming that either she's not the night and she's trapped away somewhere, or if she is the night, she's just like an observer, right? And she isn't in control of what she's doing, right? Because in previous unused text, I mentioned it here, she meant like she can't remember how many days it's been, and she mentions she can hear like a faint scratching. So she has no idea where she is, how long it has been, and so if she is the night, I don't think she's conscious of it at all.
She can hear a faint scratching?
Yeah, she says she hears like a faint scratching. So
interesting.
What do you guys think? Because I think if it is December night, it's like, oh, this December night is distinct from like actual December.
I think Des's body, I agree with the theory you presented with me. I think Des's consciousness is trapped in the... You seen the movie Get Out?
Yeah. A sunken place?
Okay, so, yeah, the sunken place, but without the viewing window. Like,
yeah.
She can kind of hear some stuff, which... What chapter was the scratching thing in?
I don't remember. I think that was 3 or 4.
Okay, if it's 3, then the scratching could be us attacking Des's body. And
it's a good point.
So the scratching noise would be her consciousness, who cannot see, but is still within the body, in the dark, right? Don't forget I'm with you in the dark, is hearing the slashing on her body. That's that faint scratching noise. But she's so disconnected from her body that it sounds faint, right?
Yep.
So she's sort of functioning as this silent observer for whatever force is controlling her actions, whether it be Eram or someone else. And no, not Kara, 2016 Undertale fan.
And yeah, I think that's an interesting theory. And if December is the narrator of Don't Forget, I wonder what is the context for this song? Maybe is this a song that she sang to Chris before she disappeared? I am not sure. So I think, again, out of all the night candidates, December probably is the most likely. But if she is the night, then I don't know. I think this pretty much confirms that she really isn't. She's not in control wherever she is. Landyn, you got anything to add?
Just a couple things. One, Charlie, I checked it on Delta Wiki. The scratching noise is in Chapter 4.
Chapter 4.
Dang it!
Yeah. I was like, you know what? I can just use the Delta Wiki for this because that's exactly what
I'm
Paul
sure I could
used
come
for
to
the
some.
screenshot.
I'm sure I could come to some conclusion about what the scratching noise is if it's in chapter 4. But oh well.
Yeah. My original interpretation of what the knight could be kind of goes off of what Gerson is. That's whenever we first saw Gerson, I was like, okay, that's interesting. It could be because right here, a collection of memory. Is that not almost beat for beat what Gerson is?
And then, oh yeah, you're right. So the knight could be, it's
like
just in
a
that
collection of strangely fragmented memory.
That's true. Then I just wonder what is her light world form, because Gerson only exists because he's inside a dark world. I'm not sure. Either way, it's probably December. As much as I want it to be Rudy, it's probably not Rudy.
It's December and ERAM, folks. That's my going theory.
And also, are we in agreement? I didn't put it in this presentation. Are we in agreement that whoever was hiding in the closet in chapter 4 and was in the closet in chapter 2 is the knight? Because that seems
I like the idea.
Yeah. So okay, that seems.
I want to add one last little thing. Well, two technically. One for the chapter 4. We're not sure if that's actually a closet.
That's true. It could be a back door.
Because it could just be a back door, yeah.
Or a confessional, because it's like church, right?
I just think it's more likely to be a closet, just since it's presumably they're hiding inside something, right?
That's true.
Right.
I just think it would be a weirdly shaped building because there was a window right by it.
I mean, you can look on the outside of the school, right? And the outside of the school architecturally makes no sense with what the inside of it looks like. And it's like, why would Chris be afraid to open it? They could just get out of the way.
Yeah, true.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, and for a light world form idea, I could pull it up on Twitter right now, but I have a bookmark from like a month ago that showed like an amalgam desk design.
Interesting.
And that could be like what the light world, because it's like mismatched desk memory or something.
Maybe. I guess we just haven't gotten.
It looked cool, but it's more.
Yeah, I guess we just
high moments and aura.
We just haven't seen really. We haven't seen any other Darkners behave like this. So like we just don't have any information. We don't have the lore on how this works to really come to a solid answer. But it's a possibility. Not to keep harping on Rudy Knight, this did remind me though, it's like another argument people use to argue against it is, how does Rudy carry Asgore in the light world or or Undyne? It's like, again, Carol's the mayor, right? She probably knows when he's going to come back into the light world. She could be there waiting for him. But again, that's just one more thing. Either way, again, I'm in agreement. It's with Charlie. It's probably December. Either way, I think we probably find out next chapter. I don't think the night reveal is something they save for the last chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready for the Forgotten Man?
The goat himself.
Let's move on, yeah.
Okay, I think this is another thing a lot of people are in agreement on. So just to recap what happens in this, right? You get to the egg room. One, there's alternate dialogue. If you've missed previous chapters, it'll mention how you see other trees in the distance. You know, kind of hinting to the player, hey, there are other forgotten or eggs that you have missed. He shows you his empty palm, and people have kind of interpreted this as a double meaning for Gaster's hands. Because we're going to talk about this in a little bit. I think I am in agreement that this is Gaster, or a form of Gaster, or at the very least, it's Chris's therapist, right? And especially since whoever this person is, the dialogue seems to suggest that Chris felt positively about this person, right? Like, just like with the language being used, the man put his hand softly on her shoulder. Chris felt a strange melancholy. Like, this just gives me the impression that Chris likes this person. And it's the last egg room. We won't be getting any more of these. Another thing with the egg is if you have it when you fight the evidence battle, right, the egg will appear, and its description is it's evidence. You'll know what it was evidence for when it happens. And like the previous chapters, there's no place to put the egg when you get back. I think that's maybe an idea Toby had in chapters 1 and 2 and then gave up on. But that's not really important. So this description here makes me think that the eggs will probably amount to like a new cutscene or maybe a small section of the game, right? Something that we'll immediately recognize as the Eggman when we see it. But I think I'm in agreement with most of the fans that at the very least this was Chris's therapist, and maybe Gaster. What do you guys think?
I buy it. I don't see any other realistic outcome here.
Yeah. The only reason I feel like it might not be Gaster is, and this is just going off of something very hyper specific, the PlayStation achievements.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because like, if you collect the egg, then you don't get the achievement for completing a chapter without issue.
Yes, that's it. That's all I have to say about that. That's the only reason I don't think it's Gaster, because we know it's Gaster making those achievements more than likely. And so the fact he has issue with the eggs is so strange to me.
And it's just...
Well, it makes his little cats get riled up. Obviously he has issue with it.
It just... Yeah, I do vibe with the theory that Gaster is the Forgotten Man, you know, considering that, oh, he was shattered across time and space, right? One of the Goners says, imagine what it's like, imagine you didn't have your life and everything continued the same as if you didn't exist. And that seems to go with kind of what the Forgotten Man is going for. Right, and again, the stuff with like his empty palm and things, that seems like kind of like a double meaning. Either way, I'm going to mention the Forgotten Man more when we get to our Chapter 6 segment. So are we ready? I think we're almost, I say almost, we're kind of like 3/5 of the way to the end. We ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Chapter 6 and beyond. I have a list of different places the Dark World could be at, but I think we're all in agreement. Like, you can even see I put it here that it's gonna be the Holiday House. Charlie put his thoughts here. It's like, what do we think? Like, I think it's gotta be there.
Yeah, I like you said, you know, here's the list without all the stuff, but I kind of broke it down in regards to why I think the only two possibilities are the Holiday House and the hospital.
Yeah, and like, I've seen people bring the hospital up. It's like, I guess, but it's like, what's in the hospital, bro? What is there that...
like, the only way I think the hospital would be utilized is for a aborted weird route with Birdley stuff.
Yeah.
Or if Rudy's in the hospital and Noelle wants to heal him there. However, I much prefer the Holiday House, and I think it is significantly more likely. Because everything you can accomplish in the hospital, except for the aborted weird route stuff, which I don't think the aborted weird route is going to emphasize Birdley that much, you know? So I think the Holiday House is the best option. I think these other ones, I broke it down. I mean, going through all of them, like, I don't think it's necessary. There's no reason that any of these other ones would be the Dark World, you know?
Because the only way I can see it not being there is if we start off the Light World in there, right? We see the rooms that we haven't gotten access to, and then we leave and it's somewhere else, which I actually will get into that here in a second. But otherwise, it's like Ice Palace, right? Like Carol, Rudy, mini-boss, right? That's that perfect place for a December reveal and night shenanigans to happen, right? Since December is kind of the whole focus of the story. So I think it's like, it's gonna be there.
Right.
As a Landyn, are you in agreement?
Yeah, the only thing, because I saw a video like a month ago, and it was like a week before the chapter dropped, about like, maybe it was like right after the dropped. Anyways, it was like an Icy's pizza theory, where like this chapter 6 location is going to be, or could be at the Icy's, and it's going to be like a la Fun Nights at Freddy's.
And as fun as that would be, sorry, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead. I want you to get your thought out because I have another thing I want to mention about it.
As fun as that would be, I feel like Chapter 5 was our lighthearted, like, fun chapter. like I think we're about to be getting down into like the nitty gritty of the game.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and Toby himself has kind of said that,
Yeah,
right?
I
He
mean
said
that was the newsletter. One
Yeah,
last fun adventure.
one
yeah.
last fun adventure, right? Because he says like, let's watch the sun go down before like it becomes dark completely or something like that.
Right, and using it as a Five Nights at Freddy's reference, I feel like is a little too it's a little too gimmicky and a little too like goofy for Chapter 6. You know?
Yeah,
That's true, and I get what you mean. I think I mean just put that there because it's like, oh, animatronics, ooh.
Right.
But the main reason I wanted to bring this up, and this is like the main thing I took out of the video. We obviously know that there was like a lot of reference to, and if you read like Noel's chat blog, whatever it was, there was lots of references to friend and cat petters. Or like
you're right.
Something friend adjacent. And also within those same blog posts, there was a couple of different articles where it talked about like Icy specifically.
Interesting.
Yeah,
In a very like conspiracy theorist manner, and it was like almost not like a horror thing, but it was like a little scary because with some of the stuff they were mentioning.
For me, that comes across as a gag because Icy's is just so weird, right?
I can't trust Toby. I can't.
Well, I wouldn't had he not been treated the same way in Undertale, and they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
But that was only like one appearance, and there's been so much Icy stuff in this chapter. In this game. I don't know. It's so strange.
But like the Google search being is Icy a cryptid? Like I feel like that's a little more gaggy.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way I'm about to abandon Mike as a possibility.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I didn't even include Mike in these slides. I'm still have no idea if he's just completely supposed to be a gag, kind of poking fun at like theory crafting, or if he is actually someone important. But I almost don't even want to dedicate any attention to Mike this stream.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all I have to say because it's entirely just like shit posts, but I think it's possible.
And then this part isn't really important. I theorized some names, right? We talked about December being the narrator for Don't Forget. If that's the case, and this does take place in the Holiday House, I think that would be a perfect title. I like Darker Than Dark. Roots would be a good one as well. It's not really important, but just something to think about. I know Landyn has one here, Winter Wonderland.
If it is like at the Holiday House and it's like an ice palace sort of, because I literally stared at the names for the chapters for like a solid 30 minutes. Just like, okay, they're not exactly referencing anything, but it's like very specific titles.
Yeah,
like Ice Palace could work, but that seems too related to the sword route or the sword mini game.
What if their chapter name's Icy's Wonderland?
It definitely could be.
That'd be crazy. Okay, but this is just for fun. There's not really much like analysis to have here. So moving on, something I'll mention very briefly, which I do kind of vibe with, as I've seen people bring up the theory that there is a street in Hometown that Chris is hiding from us. Let me kind of zoom in here on the stream. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I'm like double crossing with the stream here to make sure it looks good. Hold on, I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Never mind, this is too hard. I'm just going to point it with the cursor. Kind of here when I'm circling. There are some houses that are just out of view. You cannot access them in game. And you don't see them when you go to the other side of the street. So I like the idea that maybe because they relate to Chris's trauma in some way, that Chris is hiding this from us. He's pushing this away. He wants to forget it. And if the Dark World is not in the Holiday House, I think it would be like an insane needle drop, like, oh crap moment that maybe we get out of the Holiday House. We're like exploring Hometown, and then suddenly there's this new street that we've never seen before. And maybe Chris and Susie don't even treat it like a big deal because for the characters, they probably see it just fine, but Chris hides it from us, the player, and it'd be like, oh my god, there's going to be a dark world here. So if it, I think I kind of don't think the Forgotten Man is going to be that big of a character in the main narrative, but if this is the only idea I have for a dark world other than the holiday house is, insane reveal, there's the street we've never seen before, and then the dark world is in the Forgotten Man's house, which then is a perfect opportunity for Gasterisms or Chris backstory, Sans, maybe.
Covering a bunch of stuff that needs to be covered that hasn't.
Yeah, but again, the holiday house is perfect for that as well.
Right.
So, I don't know. I just think it is strange that you can see these houses here. But it could just be one of those video game things where, like, there's implied to be more. We just don't see it because it's a game and only kind of what is important for the game is there. But I don't know. And again, maybe having collected all 5 eggs will unlock a new cutscene or something. And it makes sense for Image Friend to pop up there, since Image Friend almost certainly has something to do with what happened to Chris. Right. So before I get into general ideas for the plot of Chapter 6, any thoughts on this, or just any alternate Dark World theories?
I don't think so.
Again, I'm not too confident in this myself. It's just something to note. And you can barely see it here, right? There is the Roots prophecy, right, with a house in it. That we don't know what that is referring to yet. Right, we just know the Forgotten Man associated with trees. It's a trees next to a house.
I also think it's worth noting that prophecy is found in the egg room if you don't enter and exit to get the egg room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that is the room that is directly associated with the egg room of that chapter.
So I think, or it could just be that maybe what I'm talking about will happen, but the Dark World isn't there, and you just unlock this new street if you have the eggs. Right? That could be a possibility as well.
I think I like that better.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's gonna be a thing, because it's important but not too important. You know? Like,
yeah.
This gives me an extra street with more lore.
Yeah, and again,
it's changed the
It's like what I said before, that the eggs would unlock like a new cutscene or small batch of content. So speaking that out loud now, I think that also makes sense. But otherwise, we don't have anything to say with that. We're almost towards the end here. Real quick, just like general plot ideas for Chapter 6. Like obviously we're gonna bring Noelle into the Dark World. And I do think, she's going to have this realization that, oh my god, my dream was real. And I think Rudy is going to be in hospice care back at her house, and she's going to rush back, and she will be the one to open the fountain. Especially since Noelle was present when Queen explained how to open a fountain, so she knows how. And then, of course, it'll be an ice palace. And I don't know if Noelle will be part of the party. Part of me thinks she's going to rush off, and we have to find her. And we're going to be looking for her and the other holidays. I think it'll be awesome if we get like a Carol Rudy boss fight where she's like super powerful and Rudy is ironically the healer. Perfect opportunity, December backstory reveal, right? Like, this is the holiday house. There's December's room. We have to get it here, right? If we didn't get it in Chapter 5, it's got to be here.
If we don't get a reveal this chapter, I'm going to be really worried.
I think we will. I think this is the chapter that really busts the cap off the game. Kind of like how Asgore's conspiracy board was in the Chapter 5 Dark World with his notes. I think we'll see something similar in Chapter 5. Right? Maybe that's how we learn December backstory. We stumble upon it. I'm not sure. I think we'll get Image Friend debut. Maybe they'll be the final chapter boss. And like we said earlier, we're going to get some... So I think maybe we'll get a reveal where we get locked in a room or we get separated, and then that's when they reveal themselves. And it's the super terrifying, like backrooms level horror. Right. I think that could be a really memorable way. I think that could be super scary. And then, like we said earlier, when we were discussing the shelter codes, I could see the chapter ending with the they know the knight is headed towards Toriel's house, and they get there. She's already gone. That's where they find the last shelter code, the Deltarune code, and then it cuts to credits. So I don't want to go. We discussed this in the Discord yesterday. I don't want to go too deep into like the actual plot because one, this stream is already 2.5 hours long, and it's like we're gonna get more newsletters and stuff. I think and we're gonna get a trailer. It's better if we just save a full deep dive for then. And again, we haven't discussed it much this stream. Like, I have a feeling Chapter 6 will be released with 7, because why else would there not be a release here in the credits? Right? Because we had the newsletter saying that, hey, we'll probably start Chapter 7 before the end of the year, and that's the case. Like, Toby had talked in previous newsletters about how they were making really good progress. So if that's the case, why wouldn't you be confident enough to say 2027 in the credits? And the only reason I can think of is he's still deciding if he's going to release it with 7 or by itself. Is that kind of your guys' thinking as well?
Yeah, and that's going to present a whole new issue for me, because if you release them together, do I split it up as like doing half of Chapter 6, then half Chapter 6, then half Chapter 7, then half Chapter, or like split it up just one chapter one day? Sorry, that's unrelated. Yeah, I think that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, because like otherwise I'm just like, if you're just gonna release Chapter 6, why? Surely you would be confident enough. But no, he said like in an interview the target date is 2027. That makes me think like, okay, maybe he just does want to release both at the same time. I kind of don't want that to happen. I like the idea of having literally all the story except for the ending, so we have all the information and can theorize for the last chapter. But he's also been making this game for like 13 years.
Right.
Longer if you include pre-Undertale stuff. And I could just see him being like, we're this close, let's just finish the game. But that's my thoughts. I think that at least a few of these things will happen. Anything you guys want to say before we go into Sham and Sword Rat stuff?
I agree with you on the Chapter 6 being a standalone thing would be better. I just don't know how realistic that is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then alternatively, yeah, no, that actually is all I had to say. I agree with every theory.
And Landyn, anything you want to add? Because I know we're about to go into your stuff here.
Yeah, I like the idea of double releasing. The only issue I really have with it, if the end of Chapter 6 is the start of the Roaring, that is going to be the most underwhelming, like,
cliffhanger,
plot twist and cliffhanger, yeah. That is going to be the most underwhelming thing ever if we was just like, oh no, anyways.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, at the same time, though, Chapter 3 had just, like, an insane ending where everyone was like, dude, imagine if we had to wait for Chapter 4. So it's like, there is precedent for something like that happening. But regardless, yeah, I agree, like, I kind of don't want to wait another year plus for a new chapter. And I think if Toby does decide to release Chapter 6 on its own, then we're looking at a February, March, maybe April by the latest. Because he made it sound like he was, like, halfway done. Right? And if that's the case, I don't see it taking a year for it to come out like 5 did. So I don't know, right? I imagine probably by the next newsletter or the one after next, we'll get confirmation on if it's going to be 1 or 2 chapters. But I hope it's just one, right? I kind of want to have almost the full picture in front of me. And I feel like it'll make the ending more exciting. It'll be like the last chapter, right? Rather than...
we can all talk about it and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've kind of covered all the ground here. I think last couple sections of the stream here, almost done, guys. Sham in the Pure Crystal. I don't want to say too much because Landyn has a whole section on this. But we learn from Sham that the Shadow Crystals are not determination, but lost dreams. And he says they're useless to Chris, but he can do something, or excuse me, they can do something very, very interesting with them. Very, very interesting is dropped a few times this chapter, right? Asgore says it. I think that's just kind of the game winking at you, saying, yes, Gaster stuff is coming. But what we don't know is what is the Pure Crystal, And also, I like the idea. It's like it could, since there's no more Shadow Crystal bosses, could Sham be the equivalent of a Shadow Crystal boss? Like maybe he makes us fight for it. I don't know, because
and if that is the case, I think he will be the last one in Chapter 6. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because I don't see them trying to fit in like a secret boss in Chapter 7.
Me neither.
That is exactly what I was going to point out, because I think it's so interesting that we have had a character who has not even like just like word of mouth proven that they are strong by literally like jailing Jevil
Yeah.
and keeping them in prison there for so long.
Yeah, so he
But
had...
we have like, I feel like we'd have to fight him at some point. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like,
So-
we talk about it. Like, prove it. I want to see it.
So I don't think he'll be like an antagonist. I think it'll be kind of like a Gerson situation where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, if you want, just like Gerson's like, oh, if you want this thing, you have to prove that you're worthy or something like that.
Funniest outcome is it's like a dojo fight.
Yeah. The Trashy Trio too. The Trashy Trio did have the freedom motif.
So it changed its name, right? It's like the Bataf motif now.
Or the airwaves motif, which is what I got in my game. But it sounds like we're on the same page here. So now I think everyone's wondering what will the pure crystal do? And Landyn has a whole section here that he wants to talk about, and that I agree with. Right, we're going to talk about Spooky Dude, and I think me, Landyn, and Charlie all agree with this theory. So, Landyn, you can take it from here, man.
All right, thank you. All right, so before we even get started with the third route itself, because I just wanted to do a little title grab.
Yeah.
Pure Crystal, what is its deal? Because we have known about this, and I did check it, since Chapter 2. Like, we have known about this since 2021, about this specific item, and that it combined with another item, which I'll touch on later, to make what seems to be a very powerful weapon. My rough idea is that recent chapters have added more fusions to Malleus's like options.
Yeah.
Specifically, like mixing either a healing item and a piece of armor, or just a specific item like the dog dollar with a piece of armor like the Gold Widow. And it's making like really powerful either items, healing weapons, stuff like that. And I think it's entirely possible the pure crystal could get mixed up with a secret boss weapon or armor. Like it could be an enhanced Jevil's Tail that has like an actual ability instead of just being there.
Yeah.
Plus more defense and magic or whatever. Or like Dealmaker being more money.
I just feel like whatever it is, it's got to be big, right? It's like
it has to be.
I do think it could be used to help make a new piece of armor. I think it's got to have some sort of crazy story significance, because the secret bosses they're associated with all these crazy characters and segments. I do think it could help in making a new armor, but I think we all agree there's going to be something more than that, and
it's sorry, go ahead.
Right, and we know Chris is hunting for them because it'll help them achieve something in some way, right? With what Eram says, right? He says, that's why you're hunting for them, the shadow crystals and the shadow mantle that I'm holding. So Chris knows it'll achieve something for them in some way. Maybe it's the part of Chris that wants to subvert the prophecy. I'm not sure. But I do like what you have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it has to be somewhat meaningful to the plot, because if it's not, no one's going to ever do any of the Shadow Crystal fights on a replay, ever.
Yeah.
Because as cool as they are like
a lot of work.
Without any payoff, they're a lot of work, you know?
Yeah, it's like you got to do a lot of work in Chapter 5 to get to Pink.
Yeah.
So I do think it is going to be very significant. So yeah, and then I guess are you ready to go to the next slide?
Not yet. I have like one little thing.
Oh, sure.
I could see it being important to like the plot, but I also want to keep in mind these are entirely missable fights.
Yeah, you are correct.
So it has to be like going off of y'all. It can be somewhat important, but not enough to where it's just like, oh, you miss this, you have to go through the entire game, do all these fights just for this one specific thing. I feel like it's got to be somewhat relevant, but not too much, to where it's a reward for people that search it, but not a detriment to those who don't care.
I think a little more than the eggs, though.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Right? And
But yeah, I'm good.
okay, and then sword rot stuff. Again, Landon made the slide. I completely agree with all this. I think I'm all in. So, Landon, you can go ahead here.
All right, will do. I'm gonna read it verbatim, like I had been.
Yeah.
Before I even mention any of this, little blue side onto the blue stuff on the side. This first slide is my main thoughts before I found Spooky Dude's sword route theory, and the next slide will mainly cover his stuff.
Yeah.
In Castletown, there's a fused item called the Twisted Sword, which currently can only be obtained, which we might be able to find a different way to obtain it. I'm not sure. That's a later chapter thing. But it must be combined with the Pure Crystal and the Thorn Ring. And the only way that we can get the Thorn Ring, like, without having to do a full-on weird route, because if you complete a weird route in Chapter 2, Noelle keeps the Thorn Ring.
Yeah.
So you have to do an aborted. But anyways, that's going a little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
General speculations are right. We all agree with this. The Pure Crystal will be our reward from fighting all the Shadow Crystal wielders. Sean will fuse it. We might have to fight him for it. And then go from there. And like I was saying with the Chapter 5 weird route, all that stuff. Aborted weird route, yeah. Whatever this weapon is, I do think I have always felt that it could lead to something interesting, maybe even a different pathway to an ending. And then that's where we go into Spooky Dude's theory.
Right. Ready for the next slide?
Yeah, unless anyone has something to say.
No, I'm good. Yeah,
good.
you can keep going.
All right, will do. All right. Going purely off of the specific section of Spooky Dude, like, trying to line up the story of the Shadow Mantle quest game. Because we know there was a lot of sections that seem to tie to the weird route, but it doesn't play out the exact same as we know it now. So it seems fair to say that the Shadow Mantle minigame, obviously you have to start the weird route. Like, I'm just going to read verbatim here. It's just easier. Mentions the Mantle game. First, quoting straight from the minigame, the Forbidden Path began with ice magic. Here you would do a normal weird route save, mostly through Chapter 2. Then afterwards you can board it there. Like I put it in 4 here, but I haven't messed with it since like 2 weeks ago. You would have to do it pretty much as soon as you get the Thorn Ring, I think. From Spampton in the Trash. I think that is probably the best way to do it. But it could also be a case of you do it right before you kill Birdley, maybe? Because you do go through and ice a lot of monsters.
Yeah.
All right, the next bullet point. Chris is... Or actually, the Noelle is used up after all that, which means she is more than likely not important anymore. We just needed her for the Thorn Ring. And then Chris is used up after obtaining the Shelter Key, which, quoting Spooky again, this may be the Twisted Sword. This is a direct quote from the video.
Mm-hmm.
They're used up but persist because the sword has a trance effect, which is like similar to the Thorn Ring on Noelle. Like, she can more directly follow our orders that way. So it could be a case where we have full control over Chris and they cannot fight back anymore. Like, they can't rip us out or anything, and we just have full control to do whatever we want.
And which I agree with all of this.
And
then the next bit would be us with the fully controlled Chris, following the Mantle minigame again, killing Susie and Rousey in Castletown. Maybe with us giving us a slight power boost, because I know it's technically a video game that we're playing, but we do get 2 levels stronger just from killing them.
And we haven't killed any Lighteners yet, which is where XP would come from in Undertale. So, assuming the system works similarly.
Exactly. And then lastly, we leave Castletown and then enact what Spooky referred to as the Hometown Massacre.
Yeah.
Which is going to be this game's genocide route.
Yeah, and so, like, I agree with pretty much all of this. I think a lot of it lines up because it does seem strange to have this fusion between Pure Crystal and the Thorn Ring, 2 items you can only get in the 2 respective routes. And it would be weird if it only resulted in just, a slightly unique item, and that's all the effect that it had. And it would be kind of an insane reveal that, this results in an entirely new route. So I'm all in. Right? And yeah, like what you said, it lines up with like what you do in the Mantle minigame, right? Like if you've seen the Roots theory, like the theory that like, the Mantle minigame resembles the structure of Hometown, right? And you go and you kill all these people that resemble Undertale characters. For me, it just lines up perfectly, right? And it doesn't resemble what happens in the weird route well enough for me to think it's just foreshadowing for the weird route, because you do some weird route stuff, but all that other stuff I just mentioned is not something we have done yet in the weird route. So yeah, I think this makes total sense, and it does make me scared for the next chapter, because assuming like, that's where you'll be able to like initiate this route. But yeah, I think it makes perfect sense.
I do want to add a little thing, because I did forget to mention it in that first sword route slide. You cannot do the Twisted Sword on Weird Route because the Chapter 5 Weird Route is 20 minutes long. And you don't get to go to the Flower Kingdom at all.
Right. There's no fifth Shadow Crystal.
Yeah.
Unless we get the option to obtain it in Chapter 7 Side B, I don't see it being possible. So it has to be an aborted
I just doubt it. I don't see Pink, like, coming back from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very purposeful that it's an aborted weird route from before Chapter 5. I think that makes sense. Okay. I guess, was there anything else you want to say about that? Otherwise, I think we have some Gaster stuff, but I think it's mainly for fun. So, is there anything serious that we should mention? Because otherwise, I think it's time to wrap up the stream.
I'm all good.
I'm chilling, but I do want to do some Gaster discussion when we get here, because I just want to know our general thoughts on them right now.
So,
along with the memes.
Yeah, before we mention Pyrogaster, which is hilarious, right? The Yar, this be very, very interesting memes are hilarious. Gaster is a difficult character for me to speak on. I mentioned in our prediction stream that, like, I think Gaster will be acknowledged in some form, but it's hard for me to know if he even makes like a physical appearance, because part of me feels like Gaster, is just the kind of character who is just destined to always be shrouded in mystery, right? Like, we were talking about how this game is inevitably gonna leave some loose ends, and I think we will get some resolution for Gaster and what his motivation is. But I do think there is going to be a lot left up for interpretation, or I could be wrong, right? Maybe he is the Gru to the minions, right? And he's the evil mastermind, and he's the final boss.
Gaster bath theory.
Yeah. Regardless,
Clean.
If he does appear, I don't think it'll be until the very last chapter, right?
Agreed.
Like, I think I can see Image Friend being the villain or final boss of Chapter 6. And then that naturally segues. I mean, either Gaster appears at the end of Chapter 6 when we hopefully defeat Friend, or not until Chapter 7.
Hometown Butcher has to be like something though. I don't know. So I was looking at this picture. He's also got to be like some Gaster mini like boss thing, but he's never mind. I don't even know.
So, like, the fact that he has this relationship with Sans makes me think that he is a character that the game is going to explain and explore somewhat, because I'm like, if he was just going to be this character that never physically appears, and he's just meant to be this character who is solely an observer, why would he have this relationship with Sans or the Forgotten Man? So, like, I do think he is going to have a fairly concrete role in the overall narrative, and maybe he is the ultimate threat. I just feel like it's like almost certain that we are not going to get all the answers about him. That's where I kind of stand with Gaster as of right now.
Right.
So what do we think?
I buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if we do get any, like, direct confrontation with Gaster, it's not even going to be the gang. It's going to be Gaster talking to us directly like he did at the end of Chapter 4.
I think so, too. Because, like, I just wonder... Because if Deltarune is Gaster's creation, and he is, like, the final boss, how is that introduced to the characters? How do they react to this being a simulation? Or is the world of Deltarune entirely manufactured by him? Or is it just a place he stumbled upon, and he's obsessed with the prophecy? Right, kind of like the Knight. We have really no concrete ideas on what his motivation is. But yeah, I'm gonna say Image Friend Chapter 6, Gaster Chapter 7. Maybe Gaster Chapter 6 if he is the Forgotten Man, but I'm not sure. Otherwise, I think that's all I got to say about him.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of something, but I think I'm just out.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of wrap up our thoughts here, we've been going for 2.5 hours. This was really fun. I think we covered a lot of really interesting ideas, right? We didn't just summarize the chapter. Like we had our different ideas and theories or interpretations of what these things mean. And I'm really excited, right? It's going to be exciting knowing that, like, the next chapter will almost certainly give us some big answers. And the idea that Image Friend is going to show up and it's probably going to be terrifying and horrible. Either way, hopefully we don't have to wait too long. I love Chapter 5, right? Chapter 6 seems like it's shaping up to be crazy as well. And then I'm sure we'll do another stream, right? Like, once we get more newsletters, and especially once we know if it'll be standalone chapter or with 7, I will have another one for sure where we just go over the plot of 6.
Let's all do bingo cards this time. Landon, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I got bingo. I only got like 7 right, but I still got bingo out of it. It was so good.
Yeah. So I guess, guys, you have any final thoughts before we end the stream?
Only one. Rules card is the Knight.
That is a
Well,
possibility.
RK.
Unfortunately, Rudy is the Knight, so I'm gonna have to disagree with you there.
Just kidding.
And then Landon, anything you wanted to say before we end stream?
It was good to be on. I wanted to be on the last one, but I didn't have time, so I'm just glad I got to make one.
For sure. And
Heck yeah.
again, whenever we do another one of these, maybe, I don't know, end of this year, maybe probably next year, I'm sure we'll have Liam with us, and we'll have like a super crazy, we'll have more information, we'll have newsletters, and we'll have like another whole big prediction stream.
For sure.
Otherwise, I think that's it. Here, I'm going to end stream
With
and then...
a Flower Man cover. Anyways,
Flower Man.
farewell, everybody.
Here, I'm going to end stream and then...